Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos. The main character, after dying in his previous life, he gets reborn as Beerus from Dragon Ball, one of the 12 gods of destruction. He shocks the Avengers at the start. What will Beerus do inside of Marvel?
Marvel, reborn as Beerus, shocked the Avengers at the start. Chapter 1, The Sky Was Not Mine. The horn came first, loud and close. Metal followed. The sound of a truck hitting bone was sharp enough to wake the soul before it left the body. Then came stillness. When I opened my eyes, I stood in space. The airless void stretched in every direction. My tail flicked once through weightlessness. My hearing caught no echo, only the faint hum of distant galaxies. My hands were lean, covered in purple fur, with sharp claws that reflected light from unseen stars. The rings on my arms glowed faintly. I didn't need to test my strength to know it was infinite. I had become Beerus, god of destruction. The sensation of power was familiar, though I'd never felt it before. Every movement of thought carried weight enough to destroy. My breath itself stirred the vacuum. I looked down, searching for something recognizable. Below me, a planet hung in the dark blue and white, rich with life. Earth. I extended my senses. No divine key, no Whis, no angels, no supreme Kai. Not the Dragon Ball cosmos. The space felt smaller, thinner. The key flow was weak. I descended slowly, folding my arms. The atmosphere broke around me like warm water. Clouds parted, revealing fire and smoke. The sky over the city was chaos. Metal crafts screamed through the air, firing blue bolts. Above the tallest building, a portal tore open. Creatures poured out grey skin, insect eyes, weapons of light. The Chitauri invasion. I recognized it instantly. New York. The Battle of 2012. I was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The power difference was laughable. This realm's gods were limited. Thanos, Loki, Odin, all impressive by mortal measure, but compared to me, they were dust. I floated above the city, watching the war unfold. Iron Man darted between buildings. Captain America directed soldiers. Thor's hammer sent lightning crashing down, but it only dented the endless swarm. I lowered my eyes. "This is noisy," I said quietly, my tone calm. Thor's lightning arced too close. The thunder rolled in my ears. I raised my right hand. Purple energy gathered in my palm, spinning smoothly. I can't enjoy anything like this. With a simple flick of my wrist, I released it. Hawkeye spread across the sky. It wasn't a beam or explosion, it was erasure. Every Chitauri it touched vanished instantly, their bodies and weapons dissolving into dust. Their ships vanished, their energy signatures gone. The portal above the tower warped, collapsed, and disappeared entirely. Silence followed. The sky cleared, leaving only drifting clouds and smoke from human fire. The city stopped moving. On the ground, the Avengers stood frozen. Thor looked up first, his hammer lowering slightly. By Odin's beard. Iron Man's helmet turned to face me. "Jarvis, analyze that energy source." "I'm afraid I cannot, sir." "It's beyond measurable range," came the reply. I descended, landing lightly on the cracked pavement. The air smelled of dust and smoke. Humans gathered around, filming, whispering, afraid. Thor landed a few meters away, staring. "Who are you?" he asked, voice steady but careful. I looked at him. "Beerus." His grip on the hammer tightened. "You carry power unlike any I have known." "I am a god of destruction," I said plainly. "Your enemies were irritating. I erased them." Iron Man landed beside Thor, the metal clanging softly. "Okay, hold up, Purple cat man. Beerus, I corrected, eyes half-lidded. Right. Beerus. First off, thanks for saving the city. Second, could you maybe not destroy anything else? I looked at him, tail swaying lazily. If you wish to keep your world, then don't make noise. Tony paused, helmet retracting. Noted. Captain America approached, shield still raised but tone measured. You just saved millions of lives. Whatever your reason, we owe you thanks. I don't care about gratitude, I said, brushing dust from my arm. I prefer peace and quiet. Thor stepped closer, still cautious. Peace and quiet do not usually come from destruction. On the contrary, I replied evenly. Destruction brings silence. He didn't answer, only watched me with that cautious warrior's stare. I turned slightly, glancing around at the ruined city. The humans were trying to rebuild already moving debris, pulling survivors, talking into strange devices. They looked fragile but persistent. It reminded me of other mortals I had once known. Thor spoke again, lowering his hammer. If you are truly a god, then we owe you hospitality. Come to Asgard, and you shall dine as one of us. I glanced at him. Your food is tolerable, I suppose. But this planet's cooking has a unique charm. Tony blinked. You eat. Of course, I said simply. I have a refined palate. Thor smiled faintly, relieved by the change in tone. Then you will find Midgard's food interesting. I will judge that myself, I replied. My eyes drifted toward a smell savory, spiced, faintly smoky. My ears picked up conversation nearby about shawarma. The scent was tempting. Iron Man followed my gaze. You want shawarma? There's a place nearby. Just, don't vaporize it. I started walking. I'll consider it. They followed cautiously as I moved through the street. Civilians stared. Some pointed phones. None dared approach. The smell of cooked meat grew stronger. I stopped at a small restaurant half collapsed but still intact. The man behind the counter stared, frozen. I looked down at him. One of everything. He hesitated. All of it? Yes. He nodded rapidly, running inside. Thor stood near the doorway, smiling faintly. You truly are unlike any I've met. That's obvious, I said. Tell me, Thor, how far does your father's power reach in this realm? Thor frowned slightly. My father guards the 9 realms. He is wise and just. Then he's weak, I replied calmly. Thor's eyes narrowed. You speak boldly. I speak accurately, I said. If Odin existed in my universe, he would bow. Tony leaned against a wall, clearly uncomfortable. All right, let's dial that down a bit. Don't think my insurance covers interdimensional god brawls. I ignored him. The food arrived on a dented tray. I sat, tail curling around the leg of the chair. I picked up a piece, examined it, then ate. The flavor was strong, simple but pleasing. This is decent, I said. Tony blinked. You just saved the world and now you're eating street food. I was hungry. He laughed quietly. You're something else. Thor joined me, sitting across the table. Beerus, you said you are a god of destruction. Does your realm have others like you? It did, I said. But they are not here. This world has none. He nodded slowly, thinking. Then perhaps fate brought you here for a reason. I looked up. I do not believe in fate. He hesitated, then dropped the subject. We ate in silence. Around us, humans rebuilt, soldiers coordinated, and smoke faded from the sky. After a while, Tony stood. Well, Beerus, if you're planning to stick around, try to keep it low-key. The world's still recovering. I'll do as I please, I said calmly. He sighed. Yeah, figured. Thor stood as well, lifting Mjolnir. I would still extend Asgard's hospitality. Perhaps my father would wish to meet you. I thought for a moment. Perhaps later. I will explore this world first. Thor nodded respectfully. Then may we meet again, God of Destruction. He and the others left. I remained at the table, watching the humans clean their city. Their resilience interested me. Weak as they were, they didn't give up. It wasn't strength, it was stubbornness. I could respect that. I looked up at the sky where the portal had been. The air shimmered faintly with residual energy. Thanos would come later. Loki had failed. The Tesseract remained on Earth. I tapped a claw against the table. This could be entertaining. My tail swayed slowly behind me as I leaned back. For now, I would stay. The food was acceptable. The planet was noisy, but manageable. And perhaps, when the next threat appeared, I might find something worth my attention. For the first time since waking, I felt mildly satisfied. Chapter 2, The Taste of Earth. Smoke still hung above the skyline as I rose from the small restaurant and turned toward the tallest tower standing above the city. The structure was sleek, glass and steel, with a glowing logo that read Stark. The man's arrogance was carved into the building itself. It reached high enough to brush the clouds and still tried to stand taller. I floated upward, ignoring the noise below. Wind rushed past my ears as I reached the tower's upper deck. The doors opened automatically, the sensors reacting to my presence though I made no effort to trigger them. Inside, the design was modern metal walls, bright light, smooth floors, and faint music echoing through the large space. I could smell oil, alcohol, and cleaning products. It lacked warmth but had precision. Tony Stark was already waiting, armor removed, dressed in his dark shirt. He stood with a glass in hand, the glowing arc in his chest flickering softly through the fabric. He gave me a quick, curious look. "You just show up wherever you like, huh?" he said with his usual sarcasm. "Yes," I replied evenly. "Your planet is mine to walk." He smirked slightly. "Right. Make yourself at home, Your Majesty." "I will," I said, stepping further inside. My eyes moved across the wide hall, noting the food scattered from the aftermath of the invasion. My tail moved once, lightly tapping the ground. This place lacks proper hospitality. "I didn't exactly plan for a god to drop in," he said dryly. "Still, I guess you earned a meal. You did save the world." "I saved my hearing," I corrected. The noise was unbearable. He laughed quietly. "Well, whatever your reason, you're welcome. You want something to eat? I've got a chef." "No," I interrupted, looking around. "I will not settle for just anything. I want the finest food your planet has to offer, from every country." He blinked. "Every country?" "Yes," I said calmly. "I will taste them all. Bring me what represents this world's best." He raised an eyebrow. "That's a tall order. You expecting me to cook all that myself?" I tilted my head slightly, eyes narrowing. "You have servants for that. Or are you not as important as this tower suggests?" He gave a quiet chuckle, clearly entertained but cautious. "I'll call someone. You sit tight." As he walked toward a console, he spoke into it. "Jarvis, get me Miss Potts." A voice replied from the speakers. "She's on her way, sir." A few minutes later, the elevator opened and Pepper Potts entered, wearing a white blouse and grey slacks, her hair neat but her movements still showing the fatigue of the day. She stopped mid-step when she saw me. Her expression shifted from surprise to polite confusion. Tony, who is this? Tony pointed casually. That would be Beerus, god of destruction. He's the one who ended the alien invasion. Try not to make him angry. She stared, unsure whether he was serious. God of, what? Destruction, I said in my normal tone. You may call me Lord Beerus. Her posture stiffened slightly, but she remained professional. All right, Lord Beerus. Welcome to Stark Tower. Bring me food, I said simply. Food, she repeated. Yes. The best from every nation on this planet. Prepared and delivered here immediately. She blinked, glancing at Tony. That's not exactly something we can get quickly. Tony shrugged. He doesn't look like the patient type. I looked between them, my tail flicking once. Are you refusing a divine command? Pepper shook her head quickly. No, of course not. I'll make arrangements right away. She turned toward her phone, already making calls. Her tone was efficient and precise as she spoke to several people at once, organizing something far beyond normal catering. Tony walked toward the bar, pouring himself another drink. So, Beerus, while Pepper's saving us all from your appetite, what brings you to my home? I was told your kind possesses intellect and wealth, I said, taking a seat on a sleek chair near the glass wall. I wish to see how far those things go when serving a god. He smirked. You're not exactly subtle. I don't need to be, I said. He nodded. Fair enough. He sat across from me. You really are a god. Yes. He raised his glass. Well, cheers to that. Guess that makes me the mortal in the room. I watched him drink, unimpressed. Mortals often speak too much. He chuckled. You're not wrong. Time passed slowly. I looked out the window as helicopters moved across the night sky. The city was trying to recover. I could still feel faint traces of alien energy in the air, like static left behind after a storm. After half an hour, Pepper returned, followed by several assistants carrying trays, boxes, and containers. The scent of cooked food filled the room quickly, spices, herbs, oils, meats, and sweets. The air thickened with warmth. Pepper gestured to the long glass table now covered with dishes. This is what we could arrange on short notice. Italian, Japanese, Indian, French, Chinese, Mexican, Thai, and several others. More are on the way. I stood slowly, eyes scanning the table. Acceptable. Tony crossed his arms. You're about to make half the city's top chefs cry with that order. I ignored him, taking a plate of sushi first. I picked up one piece and ate it. The taste was clean, light, simple but satisfying. This is pleasant. Pepper smiled slightly, relieved. I'm glad you like it. I continued to sample each dish methodically: steak from Argentina, curry from India, dumplings from China, pasta from Italy, tacos from Mexico. Each flavor was unique, the textures and spices distinct. The humans watched in silence as I moved down the table. This world has a strange talent, I said, reaching for another dish. Its people are weak, yet they create such variety. Pepper spoke carefully. We try our best. Tony grinned. Guess that's our survival strategy: make good food so gods don't erase us. I looked at him briefly. You're not wrong. He laughed quietly. As I ate, I could feel my irritation fade. The destruction earlier had left me restless, but this meal calmed it. The humans' efforts pleased me. Their fear kept them respectful. I finished another plate and leaned back slightly. You did well, I said. Pepper nodded, trying to stay composed. Thank you, Lord Beerus. We can arrange more if you wish. Later, I replied. For now, I will rest here. Tony raised an eyebrow. You're staying here? At my tower? Yes, I said. Your tower is tall, quiet, and comfortable enough. He sighed. You know, I don't usually have house guests who can vaporize planets. Then this is a rare honor, I said, standing and walking toward the wide window. The view stretched across the entire city, lights flickering like distant fireflies. You should be proud. Pepper folded her arms, still watching me carefully. Is there anything else you require, Lord Beerus? I thought for a moment. A soft bed. A quiet room. No interruptions. She nodded. I'll arrange it immediately. As she left to make preparations, Tony came to stand beside me, staring out at the city. You know, you could do a lot of good here. If you wanted. I am not interested in good, I said. I am interested in comfort. He smiled faintly. Figures. I turned my head toward him. But your world may yet entertain me. You have ambition. That's something worth watching. He chuckled. We try. When Pepper returned, she guided me to a high-level suite near the top of the tower. The room was spacious, with large windows and clean lines. The bed was wide, covered in smooth sheets. This will do, I said simply. She nodded. I'll make sure you're not disturbed. As she left, I stood near the window, looking out again. The stars here were dimmer than in my world. The universe was smaller, more fragile. Yet it held its own kind of order. Tony's voice came through a small speaker by the door. If you need anything, just say the word. I'll try not to annoy the cosmic cat sleeping in my penthouse. Do not call me a cat, I said, my tone calm but final. The speaker went silent. I lay on the bed, tail flicking lazily. The softness was pleasant. The faint hum of machines filled the background. I closed my eyes, letting the sound blend into nothing. The humans were efficient. They learned quickly when fear motivated them. I decided I would remain for now. There was still much I wanted to taste, and their world seemed full of it. I drifted into rest, surrounded by silence and the faint scent of cooked food lingering in the air. Chapter 3, The Gods of This Realm. Morning came with a dim grey light spilling through the tall windows. The sound of machines hummed softly through the walls. I opened my eyes slowly, stretched, and sat up on the large bed that Tony Stark had prepared. The sheets were soft enough. The scent of food still lingered faintly from the previous night. I stood and walked toward the window. The city below was alive again. Cars moved, people filled the streets, the usual noise of civilization returned. It was tolerable for now. My tail moved slowly behind me as I looked over the skyline. Jarvis spoke through a nearby speaker. Good morning, Lord Beerus. Mr. Stark requests to know if you would like breakfast prepared. I turned my head slightly. Bring it here. As you wish. Moments later, Tony Stark entered, holding a small tray himself. He placed it on a table with a casual air, but his eyes stayed careful. The tray carried fruit, bread, and coffee. I thought you'd still be asleep, he said, sitting down across from me. I do not sleep long, I said as I took a bite of fruit. Your world's food is pleasant, but it lacks divine seasoning. He smirked. Can't say I'm surprised. So, what's the plan today, Lord Beerus? You planning to go sightseeing or erase another alien fleet? I looked at him calmly. I wish to meet Thor's father. That made him pause. Odin? You want to go to Asgard? Yes, I said. You mentioned the 9 realms. I want to see what passes for divinity here. Tony leaned back. I can probably get Thor on the line. He's not hard to find these days. Do it, I said simply. He tapped a device on his wrist, activating the holographic display. Jarvis, contact the big guy with the hammer. Connecting, sir. After a few seconds, a shimmering blue image of Thor appeared. His armor gleamed, and his voice was steady as usual. Stark? What is it? Tony gestured toward me. Your new cosmic friend wants a word. Thor's expression shifted slightly when he saw me. Lord Beerus. Thor, I said evenly. You said your father rules over Asgard. Take me there. I wish to speak with him. Thor hesitated. May I ask why? To judge the strength of this realm's gods, I replied. Tony muttered under his breath, that's not ominous at all. Thor ignored him and looked at me again. If it is your wish, I will open the Bifrost. I stood. Good. Do it now. He nodded once. The hologram faded. A few seconds later, light filled the room, bright and swirling. The air crackled with energy. A pillar of colored light burst from the sky, surrounding me. The sensation of travel was immediate, fast, cold, then gone. When I opened my eyes again, I stood on a golden platform under a wide, shining sky. Towers of gold and crystal reached into the air. Waterfalls flowed from cliffs that seemed to hang in light. The scent was different, pure, clean, almost metallic. Asgard. Thor appeared beside me, hammer in hand, smiling proudly. Welcome to Asgard, Lord Beerus. I glanced around. Your home is tidy. I approve of the shine. He laughed softly. Our realm was built with pride. My father's palace is this way. I followed him through long halls lined with armor and torches that burned with a steady light. Servants stopped and stared as I passed, their eyes wide. None dared speak. The main hall was vast. Golden pillars stretched to a high ceiling. At the far end sat Odin, resting on his throne, staff in hand, his single eye watching us. His presence was strong, but his power was thin compared to mine. Thor approached first, bowing his head slightly. Father, this is Lord Beerus, god of destruction. He aided Midgard during the Chitauri invasion. Odin's gaze turned toward me. You are not of this realm. No, I said plainly. Your son invited me. I wished to see what kind of gods rule this world. He regarded me for a long moment. You speak with certainty. Few enter Asgard with such tone. Few deserve to, I said. You rule over 9 realms, yes? How many can you destroy with your hand? His expression did not change. I preserve balance, not chaos. That sounds like an excuse for weakness, I said calmly. Thor shifted uneasily beside me, but I ignored him. Odin stood, walking a few steps closer. His aura flared briefly, the ground humming underfoot. You challenge my strength. I measure it, I said. It is small. His staff struck the floor with a sharp sound. You would insult the Alfather in his own hall. I met his gaze without moving. You misunderstand. I insult no one. I state truth. The tension in the air grew heavy. Thor took a slow breath. Father, Lord Beerus is not an enemy. He only seeks to understand. Odin studied me for a moment longer, then lowered his staff. You carry power beyond this realm's design. I can feel it. You are not of the creation I oversee. That is correct, I said. Your magic, your energy, your runes, they are limited to your realm's scale. My destruction exists above that. Odin nodded slowly, his tone calm again. Then you stand beyond my reach. Still, you have not come to fight. No, I said. I came to eat. Thor blinked. Eat? Yes, I said, turning my head slightly. Your world speaks of feasts worthy of gods. I wish to taste them. Thor smiled again, relieved. That I can arrange. He gestured toward the exit. Come, Lord Beerus. The kitchens are well stocked. I followed him through another corridor until we reached a large hall filled with long tables and golden dishes. Servants hurried about, bringing trays of roasted meats, fruits, and bread. The scent filled the air, stronger than anything on earth. I took my seat at the main table. Thor sat across from me, still wearing his armor. You'll find Asgardian food rich and strong, he said proudly. I picked up a plate and began to eat. The flavor was thick and heavy, spiced with ingredients that carried faint energy. It was better than human food, but not by much. This is acceptable, I said. Thor smiled broadly. High praise indeed. Servants refilled the table quickly. I continued to eat until the plates were empty. Odin entered quietly, watching from the side of the hall. You consume much for one so lean. I burn more than I take, I said simply. Energy flows differently for gods like me. He walked closer. Tell me, Lord Beerus, if you destroy as you claim, what is your purpose? To maintain balance through erasure, I said. Worlds stagnate without death. Creation depends on destruction. He nodded slightly, thoughtful. Then perhaps our goals are not so different. Perhaps, I said. But I am far better at mine. Thor laughed lightly, breaking the quiet. You truly have confidence, Beerus. I have reason to, I said. No one in this realm matches me. Odin regarded me again, his voice calm but firm. You are powerful indeed. Yet, if you bring harm to my realm, I will oppose you. You would fail, I said without raising my tone. He smiled faintly. Then let us hope you remain pleased with your meals. I leaned back slightly. As long as your cooks remain consistent. Thor stood. Shall I show you more of Asgard? Yes, I said. I want to see everything. We walked through the city. Warriors trained in courtyards, and people bowed as we passed. The air was filled with the clang of metal and the sound of flowing water. Thor gestured toward the horizon. Beyond that is the edge of the Bifrost. It connects to every realm. I looked out at the bridge of light stretching into space. A stable link between worlds. Efficient. He nodded. My father built it long ago. It keeps peace among the realms. Until someone stronger arrives, I said quietly. He didn't argue. We returned to the palace near sunset. The sky turned gold, the light reflecting across the walls. Odin awaited us again, standing near the throne. Lord Beerus, he said, you have seen Asgard. What do you think? It is well maintained, I said. Your people are disciplined. You have strength, but your limits are clear. He accepted the words without reaction. Then we understand one another. Thor smiled. Perhaps one day, you will fight beside us rather than above us. I looked at him. Perhaps. If your enemies are worth my time. Thor laughed again. We shall see. Odin raised his hand slightly. You are welcome here, Lord Beerus. But if your power turns against our realms, I will act. I looked at him calmly. You will try. He gave a single nod. Then we are finished. The hall fell quiet again. Thor bowed his head slightly. I'll take you back to Midgard, my lord. I gave a small nod. Very well. He summoned the Bifrost once more. Light surrounded us, and the palace vanished. The sensation of travel passed quickly, replaced by the cool air of Earth again. We stood on the platform outside Stark Tower. Thor looked at me, still smiling. I hope Asgard met your expectations. It did, I said. I will return if your cooks improve. He laughed. I'll inform them. As he lifted Mjolnir to leave, I added, tell your father I found his restraint impressive. Thor's eyes brightened with amusement. I will. Farewell, Lord Beerus. The lightning took him back into the sky. I turned toward the tower entrance and walked inside, my steps silent. Tony was waiting in the main room, half dressed in his armor, clearly curious. Well? How was the field trip? Informative, I said, sitting down. Their gods are strong for this world. But they are not worth fearing. He smiled faintly. Figures you'd say that. Prepare dinner, I said. Something light. He sighed. You're gonna eat me out of house and home. You'll manage, I said calmly. He turned to the kitchen area. Fine. But you're covering the delivery tip. I ignored him and looked out the window again. The sky over New York was clear now, the clouds drifting slowly past. The day had been long, but tolerable. I had seen what passed for gods in this realm. They were not weak, but not divine either. The food was better, though not perfect. For now, that was enough. Chapter 4, Across the Realms. Thor returned to Stark Tower the following morning. The sound of thunder shook the glass walls as he landed on the balcony, his hammer still sparking faintly. He stepped through the open doors with his usual broad stride and an easy confidence. Lord Beerus, he said, his tone warm. You wished to see the other realms. My father has granted permission for you to travel with me. I looked up from the table where I had been sitting. The morning meal was finished, the plates cleared, but the taste still lingered faintly on my tongue. Finally, I said calmly. It took long enough. Thor smiled slightly. We had to prepare the Bifrost to ensure the passage would not harm mortals or those unfamiliar with its energy. I am not a mortal, I said flatly. You worry too much. He laughed softly. Perhaps. Still, it would be my honor to guide you. I stood, my movements slow but deliberate. My tail swayed once behind me. Then we leave now. Tony Stark appeared from the adjoining room, wearing a black shirt and holding a tablet. You two going on another cosmic field trip? Don't forget to send a postcard. Thor grinned. I shall return soon, Stark. Keep your world in one piece while I'm gone. Tony raised an eyebrow. No promises. I ignored their banter. Let's go, Thor. He nodded and lifted Mjolnir. Hold on. The Bifrost will open shortly. The air around us brightened, then the swirling colors of the bridge surrounded us both. The sound of rushing wind filled the space. It lasted only seconds before the pressure vanished, replaced by the still air of Asgard's golden platform. The rainbow light faded behind us. I looked up at the wide sky. The colors here were strong and precise, brighter than Earth's. Thor gestured toward the edge of the platform, where the Bifrost shimmered faintly, connecting to the other realms. Heimdall, Thor called out. A tall, broad man stepped forward from the gate's center. His golden armor gleamed, and his eyes shone like molten light. He regarded me without fear. So this is the one who calls himself a god of destruction. I studied him briefly. His energy was steady and alert, the kind of strength that came from long duty. You see across worlds, I said. Your sight is impressive. He inclined his head slightly. It is my task to guard the realms. None pass without my awareness. Good, I said. Then open the path. Thor smiled. Heimdall, we will begin with Vanaheim. Heimdall turned toward the console at the gate. The mechanism moved, light building along the ring until the bridge flared alive. The path stretched forward into endless distance. "Step forward," he said. Thor moved first, and I followed. The light swallowed us. When the glow faded, the scent of earth and forest filled the air. Vanaheim stretched out in front of us, vast fields, rivers, and mountains. The people here looked human but carried faint energy of their own. Warriors trained in open courtyards, their armor shining in the sun. Thor spoke with quiet pride. "Vanaheim is one of our allied realms. Its warriors are loyal and strong. They fought beside Asgard in many wars." I looked around. "Their energy is weak." He smiled lightly. "Not every realm holds divine power, Lord Beerus. I can see that." A group of soldiers approached, recognizing Thor. "Prince Thor," one of them called, kneeling. Thor greeted them warmly, speaking with easy familiarity. They bowed to me cautiously, sensing the pressure of my presence. I gave them a single glance. "Continue your training." They nodded quickly and withdrew. Thor turned to me. "You command attention easily." "They sense danger," I said. "Instinct keeps them alive." He chuckled. "You speak true." We walked through the main settlement, the people stopping to watch but keeping their distance. The air here was heavy with life. It was peaceful but plain. After some time, Thor gestured toward the horizon. "From here, we can travel to Nidavellir. It lies deeper within the cosmic fields, home of the dwarves who craft the greatest weapons." "Take me there," I said. He nodded and raised Mjolnir. The Bifrost opened again, pulling us upward. The light faded, replaced by the glow of fire and molten metal. The air was hot, the ground shaking faintly with the hammering of forges. The dwarves were tall, their hands rough from constant work. Thor spread his arms. "Welcome to Nidavellir. Here, the mightiest weapons in the realms are born." A large figure approached Eitri, the dwarf king. His tone was deep and steady. "Thor, son of Odin. What brings you here?" Thor smiled. "I travel with Lord Beerus, a god unlike any other. He wished to see our realms." Eitri looked at me carefully. "You carry destruction in your aura." "That is accurate," I said. "I wish to see what you build before I decide if it is worth leaving intact." He didn't flinch. "Then look well." He led us deeper into the forge. Rivers of molten metal flowed under stone bridges. Machines powered by runes and fire moved constantly. The sound was steady and rhythmic. I watched as a group of dwarves worked on a new hammer. Each strike released sparks that filled the air. Their coordination was precise. "This realm has discipline," I said. Eitri nodded slightly. "Our work is our life." Thor placed a hand on his shoulder. "Their craftsmanship has served Asgard for ages. Mjolnir itself was forged here." I looked at the hammer in his hand. "It holds decent energy. I could crush it, but I see why you value it." Thor smiled faintly. "Let's not test that today." Eitri's workers paused briefly to look at me. None spoke. The heat grew stronger as we moved toward the central forge. "This metal," I said, pointing at the molten stream, "contains condensed energy." "Yes," Eitri said. "You metal. It channels divine force." I watched the flow for a moment. "Efficient." He nodded once. "It serves the gods well." We remained there for several hours as Thor spoke with the dwarves. I examined the forges, observing the process of creation with detached interest. The balance of energy and material here was simple but effective. When Thor finally turned back to me, his expression was pleased. "You have seen their strength. Shall we continue?" "Yes," I said. "Next realm." The Bifrost light surrounded us again, drawing us away. When the light cleared, we stood in Alfheim. The air was clear, and light shimmered faintly across the landscape. The people here were graceful and tall, their movements quiet. The buildings were white stone with intricate carvings. Thor spoke softly. Alfheim, home of the light elves. They are peaceful and skilled in magic. I looked around. Their energy is delicate. A group of elves approached, bowing politely. Their leader greeted Thor with respect. Prince of Asgard, welcome. Thor nodded. We only pass through, but your realm remains beautiful. The elf's eyes shifted to me. And who is your companion? I answered before Thor could. Lord Beerus. God of destruction. The elf froze briefly. You carry immense power. I do, I said. You are wise to notice. He inclined his head. May peace follow your path. We continued walking through the shining city. The light reflected off every surface. The air carried a faint floral scent. Thor smiled as he looked around. This realm always brings calm. I prefer silence, I said. But this is tolerable. He laughed lightly. That's almost a compliment. We spent some time among the elves, then returned to the bridge. Heimdall's voice echoed faintly through the air. The next path is ready. The light took us again. We arrived on Svartalfheim next. The sky was dark, filled with drifting ash. The ground was rough stone, broken and blackened. The remnants of the dark elves' war lingered here. Thor's expression grew somber. This realm has suffered much. Its people were corrupted long ago. I stepped forward, feeling the faint traces of old power. The energy here is unstable. Yes, he said. The ether once slept here, long before it appeared on Midgard. I looked over the wasteland. It feels empty now. He nodded. It is. We remained only a short while before returning to the bridge. The light of the Bifrost took us once more. When we appeared again, it was in Jotunheim. Ice stretched in every direction. The air was cold and sharp, each breath crisp against the lungs. Giants moved in the distance, their skin blue and rough. Thor's tone carried respect. This is the land of the frost giants. They were once my enemies, but they keep to themselves now. I looked across the frozen expanse. Their size is impressive, their energy average. One of the giants noticed us and approached slowly. His voice rumbled low. Thor. You return. Thor nodded. Only to show this god our lands. We mean no harm. The giant looked at me. You are not one of the realms. No, I said. I am beyond them. He studied me briefly, then turned away. Then this place holds nothing for you. Correct, I said. Thor exhaled softly. He means no offense. The Jotuns value their solitude. They can have it, I replied. We stood on the ice a moment longer before Thor lifted Mjolnir again. We have seen much today. Enough, I said. Your realms are orderly but weak. He smiled faintly. I expected as much. The light of the Bifrost pulled us back to Asgard. We landed once more on the Golden Bridge. Heimdall stood waiting. You have travelled far, he said. Thor nodded. Lord Beerus has seen our realms and their strength. I looked at Heimdall. They are stable. That is enough. He inclined his head slightly. Your judgment is noted. Thor turned to me, his tone sincere. You are welcome to remain in Asgard as long as you wish. I will consider it, I said. He smiled. Then come. The kitchens will prepare something special for your return. I followed him back to the palace. The sun was setting, the light turning deep gold across the halls. The scent of cooking filled the air as we entered the dining hall again. Large platters covered the table: roasted meats, bread, fruits, and mead. I took my seat and began eating without ceremony. The food was slightly better than before. Thor watched with satisfaction. "It pleases me that you enjoy our hospitality." "It is adequate," I said. He laughed. "High praise, coming from you." I ate until I was satisfied, then stood. "You have shown me your realms, Thor. They are worth sparing for now." He bowed his head slightly, smiling. "That is good to hear." Odin entered quietly, watching us both. "Your journey was long," he said. "It was," I replied. "Your realms are peaceful." "Then they have passed your inspection?" he asked. "For the moment," I said. He nodded once. "Then Asgard thanks you for your presence." I turned slightly toward Thor. "I will rest in your palace for tonight." "Of course," he said warmly. "The best chambers will be prepared." I walked toward the corridor, the hall quiet behind me. The rooms were bright, the air cool. I looked out at the horizon through the open balcony. The sky stretched endlessly, stars glimmering above the golden city. The sound of faint laughter and the ring of distant steel echoed softly in the background. I closed my eyes and stood there for a long while, feeling the calm air of this place. Chapter 5, The Worth of a King. The halls of Asgard were silent when I woke. Morning light poured through the tall windows, reflecting across the golden floors. Servants moved quietly through the corridors, avoiding eye contact when they noticed me. My ears caught every whisper and footstep. The calm atmosphere was pleasant, but it lacked challenge. I walked slowly through the palace, tail swaying behind me. My feet made no sound on the polished floor. My thoughts were clear. Odin was powerful for this realm, but his restraint bothered me. He ruled, yet he had no edge, no hunger to test his limits. He reminded me of a fighter who forgot what it meant to use his power. I turned down another corridor, approaching the large double doors that led to Odin's chambers. 2 guards stood at attention, their armor shining. They lowered their spears slightly as I approached. "Lord Beerus," one said carefully. "The Alfather is at rest." "He's awake now," I said. They hesitated. "We cannot allow anyone." I raised my hand. The air shimmered briefly. Both guards froze in place, their weapons disintegrating into dust before they could blink. I stepped forward and pushed open the doors. The chamber beyond was wide and richly decorated. Tapestries hung on the walls, and the air smelled faintly of incense and polished metal. Odin sat near the balcony, wearing his golden robes, staff resting beside him. He looked up slowly, his single eye steady. "Lord Beerus," he said calmly. "It is early for visitors." I stopped in front of him, my arms crossed. "You're a god who sits too long, Odin. I've seen your realm. I've seen your warriors. They follow you because you carry a title, not because they fear your power." His expression didn't change. "And what do you wish from me?" "I want you to fight," I said plainly. "If you refuse, I'll destroy Asgard." The silence that followed was long and heavy. His gaze sharpened. "You would threaten my realm." "I don't threaten," I said. "I announce. You've ruled too long without proving yourself. I want to see if the king of Asgard still has strength." He stood slowly, taking up his staff. "You come to my home, demand battle, and speak of destruction. You understand the consequence of your demand?" "Yes," I said. "That's why I'm giving you the chance to make it interesting." He studied me carefully, then nodded once. "Very well." The doors behind me opened suddenly. Thor entered, his armor gleaming, his tone urgent. "Father, what is happening?" I turned my head slightly toward him. "Leave," Thor. This doesn't concern you. He gripped Mjolnir. It does if you harm Asgard. Odin raised his hand. Enough. This is my fight. Thor hesitated, then stepped back. Father. I said enough, Odin repeated. His tone left no room for argument. Thor stopped, his face tense. I could sense his frustration, but he stayed silent. Odin moved toward the open space in the center of the chamber. His staff glowed faintly, power building in the air. The energy was old, layered with centuries of battle. I smiled faintly. Finally. We faced each other. Odin lifted his staff, summoning golden energy that filled the room with heat and vibration. The floor cracked beneath his feet as his aura expanded. Thor moved further back, watching silently. Odin's voice was calm but heavy. You wish to see the strength of the Alfather. Then you will have it. I raised my hand, my claws flexing slightly. Good. Don't hold back. He struck first. The staff shot forward, releasing a surge of light that tore through the air. I raised one hand and absorbed the blast effortlessly. The energy vanished against my palm. I looked down at it briefly, then back at him. That was disappointing. He frowned slightly, then vanished in a blur of motion, reappearing behind me. His staff swung down, striking with enough force to shake the entire floor. I caught it between two fingers. The shockwave spread outward, cracking the walls, but my position didn't change. Odin stepped back quickly, his expression tightening. I dropped his weapon and brushed the dust from my hand. You're too slow. His aura flared again. Golden light covered his body, forming a shield. He raised the staff high and slammed it into the ground. The air rippled violently. The entire chamber shook as energy burst outward in every direction. The golden walls split, sending fragments across the room. I remained still, the power washing over me without effect. When the light faded, Odin stood breathing hard, his staff trembling slightly. I tilted my head. Was that supposed to be impressive? He didn't answer. Instead, he lunged again, summoning spears of light that rained down from above. Each one hit with precision, exploding on contact. Smoke filled the chamber. Thor shielded himself with Mjolnir, shouting, "Father!" When the smoke cleared, I stood untouched. Not a single mark remained on my clothes or skin. I raised one hand and flicked my finger. A pulse of purple energy flew forward, hitting Odin squarely in the chest. He flew backward through the wall, crashing into the next chamber. The sound echoed through the palace. Servants and guards rushed from the corridors, stopping when they saw the destruction. Odin rose slowly, his robes torn, his expression composed but strained. His aura flickered weakly. I walked through the broken wall, stepping onto the cracked marble floor. "You've grown soft," I said. He steadied himself, breathing hard. "You underestimate me." I appeared in front of him instantly, faster than his eyes could follow. My hand gripped his staff and crushed it into dust. "No. I don't." He fell to one knee, coughing once. The power around him faded completely. I stood over him, arms crossed, my expression calm. "That was your full strength." "It wasn't enough." Thor ran forward, eyes wide. "Enough. Stop." I looked at him briefly. If I wanted to kill him, I would have. He stopped a few steps away, still holding Mjolnir tightly. "You've proved your point." I turned back to Odin. "You should remember what it feels like to fight for real. You've let your power rust." Odin met my gaze, breathing slowly. "You hold great power, Lord Beerus. I see now why none can oppose you." I gave a short nod. "At least you understand that." He stood, steadying himself on the remains of the wall. You said you would destroy Asgard if I refused to fight. Will you still carry out that promise? No, I said simply. You fought. It was enough to keep me entertained. Thor lowered his hammer slightly. Then Asgard is safe. For now, I said. Odin straightened fully, his breathing steady again. You seek strength in others to measure your own. You will not find it here. I know, I said. But it was worth checking. He gave a faint, tired smile. Then you are satisfied. I nodded once. For the moment. The guards finally entered, weapons raised, but Thor motioned for them to stand down. There's no danger, he said firmly. They looked at the damage in silence. The walls were cracked, the floor scorched. The chamber smelled of ozone and dust. I turned toward the balcony and looked out over the Golden City. The people below continued their lives, unaware of what had just happened. Your realm is still standing. That should please you. Odin joined me at the balcony, his posture straight despite his fatigue. You could have destroyed it easily. Why did you not? I didn't feel like it, I said. Thor exhaled softly. You certainly have a strange sense of restraint. I call it preference, I said. Odin studied me quietly for a moment. If nothing else, you have reminded me that even kings must stay sharp. You're welcome, I said with a faint smirk. He chuckled lowly, the sound brief. You are unlike any being I have met. I hear that often, I said. It's accurate. The silence that followed was steady. The wind carried faint sounds from the city, hammers striking metal, voices calling from the training grounds. Thor finally spoke again. If you wanted a fight, you could have asked. I did, I said. Your father accepted. He shook his head lightly. You don't make things easy. I'm not supposed to, I replied. Thor sighed, then smiled faintly. At least Asgard still stands. I turned from the balcony and walked toward the door. I'm going to eat. Fighting makes me hungry. Thor laughed quietly. The kitchens will prepare whatever you wish. Good, I said. Tell them to hurry. I left the room. Behind me, the guards began repairing what they could. Odin remained near the balcony, silent, while Thor spoke with him in low tones. I didn't need to listen. The outcome was already clear. As I walked through the halls, servants moved quickly out of the way. The air still vibrated faintly from the remnants of divine power. I could feel the tension around me. Every Asgardian in the palace sensed that something immense had happened. I reached the great dining hall. The long tables were already being set. The scent of roasted meat and baked bread filled the air. I took my seat near the head of the table. Moments later, Thor entered and sat beside me. You certainly know how to make an impression, he said lightly. I don't try, I said. It happens naturally. He smiled. Father will recover. You didn't go easy on him. He'll thank me for it, I said. Eventually. Servants placed dishes across the table, large platters of meat, fruits, and pastries. I picked up a piece and began eating. The taste was rich and filling. Thor poured himself a cup of mead. So, Lord Beerus, are you satisfied now? For now, I said between bites. Your realm's leader needed a reminder of what it means to be challenged. He's still alive. Consider that mercy. Thor raised his cup. To your mercy, then. I looked at him. You sound amused. I am, he admitted. You've shaken Asgard, but you've also given it something new, a reason to remember what power looks like. I ate another bite, indifferent. If that helps you sleep, so be it. He laughed again, genuinely this time. The hall filled with the quiet sounds of eating and conversation as other warriors joined, still glancing my way with unease. I ignored them. My focus was on the food. When I finished, I leaned back slightly, tail curling lazily behind me. That was acceptable, I said. Thor grinned. Coming from you, that might be the highest praise possible. Perhaps, I said. Tell your cooks to keep the standard. He nodded. They'll be honored. I stood, stretching lightly. I'll rest. Wake me if someone interesting appears. Understood, he said with a grin. I left the hall and returned to my quarters. The light outside dimmed as the sun lowered beyond the horizon. I sat near the balcony, watching the faint glow fade from the golden sky. The fight had been short, but it had served its purpose. Odin had been reminded of his limits, and I had found brief amusement. That was enough for the day. I lay down on the bed, folding my arms behind my head, the sounds of the palace distant and calm. Chapter 6, Fire Beneath the Realms. The next day passed quietly in Asgard. The golden halls had been repaired, the shattered walls from my fight with Odin replaced as if nothing had happened. Servants avoided eye contact as they passed, moving with silent urgency. The air was still heavy from the memory of power. I ate breakfast slowly, watching the sunlight reflect off the plates. Thor entered with his usual confidence, his red cape brushing the floor. He smiled, though his tone carried caution. You've been resting, Lord Beerus. The palace feels different when you're quiet. I was waiting for something interesting, I said, setting the cup down. You promised me strength worth my time. I've seen Asgard's warriors, and they bore me. He nodded slowly. Then perhaps you will find interest in Muspelheim. I glanced at him. The realm of fire. Yes, he said. Surtur sleeps there. A being of flame and destruction. His power rivals the old tales of Ragnarok itself. I leaned back slightly. A destroyer. In his way, Thor said. But he has long been sealed by my father. His power grows from the eternal flame. He is dangerous even contained. That sounds better than another meal, I said. Thor smiled faintly. You wish to face him. I want to see if his destruction lives up to its reputation. He gave a short nod. Then I'll guide you there. But we must take care the realm is unstable. I don't care, I said. Just open the way. Thor lifted Mjolnir and called out toward the sky. The Bifrost responded instantly, light filling the air. Heimdall's voice carried faintly through the bridge. You travel to the land of fire, Prince Thor. Proceed with caution. Thor shouted back, open the gate, old friend. The beam of rainbow light surrounded us. The transition was fast and harsh. The heat hit first, sharp and dense. The sky changed from gold to deep red. When the light faded, we stood on cracked black rock surrounded by rivers of molten lava. The air shimmered from the heat. The sky burned like an endless furnace. Flames rose in waves across the horizon. Thor's voice was calm but steady. Welcome to Muspelheim, Lord Beerus. The realm of eternal flame. I looked around slowly. It's unpleasant to look at. He smirked. It's not meant for beauty. We began walking. The ground was uneven, glowing faintly beneath each step. Embers floated through the air. In the distance, large stone structures rose from the lava, connected by narrow bridges. I could sense faint life, massive creatures moving in the dark smoke, their energy low but wild. This place is empty, I said. It was, Thor replied. But some of Surtur's followers still roam here. Fire demons, remnants of his army. As if on cue, shapes emerged from the smoke ahead, large figures with burning eyes, carrying blades of molten metal. They roared, their bodies dripping fire. Thor raised Mjolnir. Be ready. They attack anything not their own. I lifted one hand lazily. Don't bother. The creatures charged. I released a flicker of energy. The air around them bent for an instant before every one of them dissolved into dust. Their weapons melted into the lava. Thor lowered his hammer slowly. You didn't even move. I didn't need to, I said. You said this was dangerous. I hope Surtur is more impressive. He gave a small laugh. You'll see soon enough. We crossed a narrow bridge over a lava river, the heat rising thick against the air. The further we went, the heavier the energy became. I could feel it pulsing deep beneath the ground. He's close, Thor said quietly. Surtur's temple lies ahead. We reached a large cavern carved from black rock. The inside glowed with firelight. At the center stood a massive throne, and behind it, a towering figure of molten metal and flame. His head bore long, curved horns, and his eyes burned like the sun. He was larger than any being I'd seen in this realm. Thor raised his voice. Surtur. The creature stirred, lifting his head slowly. His voice rumbled like grinding stone. Thor. Son of Odin. You dare return to my realm? Thor stood firm. I come not to fight you, Surtur. Another wishes to see your strength. Surtur's fiery gaze turned toward me. Who is this small god that walks beside you? I stepped forward. Beerus. God of destruction. He rose from the throne, the ground shaking under his weight. Destruction? You claim what is mine by nature. I looked up at him calmly. You destroy slowly. I erase. He laughed, the sound deep and echoing. Flames erupted from his shoulders. Bold words for something so small. Do you wish to test them? Yes, I said. Show me what your power amounts to. Thor frowned. Careful, Beerus. His flame feeds on his pride. I smiled faintly. Good. Let him burn. Surtur raised his massive sword, the blade larger than the palace walls of Asgard. Fire rolled across its edge. He swung downward, the impact exploding into a wave of molten energy. I extended one finger. The attack stopped inches from me, frozen mid-air. The heat vanished. The flames dissipated into sparks. I looked up at him. That's all. His eyes widened slightly. He swung again, faster this time, striking with enough force to split the mountain behind us. The shockwave shook the ground, sending rivers of lava spilling from the cracks. I appeared behind him instantly, placing my hand against his back. Too slow. A burst of purple energy flared from my palm, sending him crashing into the distant wall of the cavern. The rock split and collapsed. Thor shielded his face from the debris. You could have warned me. I didn't think you needed warning, I said. Surtur rose again, roaring. His body grew larger, his flames burning brighter. You mock me. No, I said. You're doing that yourself. He hurled fireballs that filled the cavern. Each explosion melted stone, turning it to liquid. I moved through the blasts easily, walking forward without hurry. When I reached him, I caught his sword in one hand and crushed it into molten fragments. The metal hissed as it evaporated. Surtur's flames surged in desperation. He tried to strike me with both fists, each blow heavy enough to shatter mountains. I blocked them with a single arm, unimpressed. Your power lacks control, I said calmly. He roared again, raising his hands toward the ceiling. The entire cavern erupted in fire. The sky above the volcano tore open, releasing a column of light and flame. The heat was immense. Thor took a step back, watching carefully. He draws from the eternal flame. I looked up as Surtur's size increased further, his body now towering over the mountains. His voice shook the air. This is the power of Muspelheim. I sighed softly. It's noisy. In one movement, I appeared before his face. My hand glowed with purple light. Hawkeye. The word left my mouth evenly. The space around Surtur shimmered. His flames began to unravel, his body turning to particles of light. He roared in disbelief, his energy scattering into the wind. Within seconds, the massive figure was gone. Only the echo of his voice remained, fading into silence. Thor stared at the empty space where Surtur had stood. You erased him. He'll reform eventually, I said. His power is tied to this realm's core flame. I only dispersed it. Thor looked at the scorched ground. You treat gods like children. They behave like them, I said. He chuckled under his breath. You're unlike any being I've met. That's what everyone says, I replied. We walked back toward the bridge as the air cooled slightly. The lava around us flowed more slowly now, the pressure beneath the ground calmer. The realm itself felt subdued. Thor looked thoughtful. You've quieted Muspelheim. Surtur's rage has slept for centuries, but I doubt anyone else could silence it so easily. I did it because it was loud, I said. Not for your peace. He smiled. Still, Asgard will be grateful. I ignored him and looked at the sky, where the cracks of flame slowly sealed. He wasn't worth the trouble. Few are, Thor said. But he will remember that defeat when he returns. If he returns, I said. Next time, I'll finish it. Thor nodded. I'll remind him. We reached the platform where the Bifrost beam shimmered faintly in the air. Heimdall's voice echoed again. You have completed your task, Prince Thor. Thor raised his hammer. We return. The beam of rainbow light engulfed us once more, pulling us back across the realms. The heat faded, replaced by cool air and the familiar gold of Asgard's bridge. Heimdall stood waiting, his golden eyes focused on me. The flames of Muspelheim are quiet. I felt the shift from here. Your sight is sharp, I said. He nodded. Few could have done what you just did. Thor smiled. Beerus could. Easily. Heimdall looked at him briefly, then back at me. Then Asgard owes you another debt. I didn't do it for you, I said. I was bored. He gave a slow nod of acknowledgement. Boredom can be dangerous in your hands. Not for me, I said. Thor laughed softly. Come, Lord Beerus. The palace awaits. You've earned another feast. I looked at him. I didn't fight to eat, but I won't refuse. We walked back across the golden bridge, the air filled with the sound of distant wind. Servants bowed as we entered the palace. The dining hall was already being prepared. Long tables filled with food, drinks, and glowing dishes lined the hall. Thor clapped his hands once. You'll find tonight's meal more suitable than yesterday's. The cooks worked through the night. They should, I said. He poured me a glass of mead. You make demands easily. I can, I said, taking the glass. He grinned. I've noticed. We ate in silence for a while. The food was better, heavier, seasoned with richer flavors. The mead burned pleasantly on the way down. After a long pause, Thor spoke. Father says your power has reminded him of something he had forgotten. I didn't look up. Good. He should thank me. Thor smiled faintly. He might, in his own way. I set the cup down. Your realms are quiet now. Your enemies will take time to recover. Use that time well. He nodded firmly. We will. The hall grew quiet again, the sound of fire crackling in the hearth. I leaned back slightly, closing my eyes for a moment. If something stronger appears, call me. Until then, don't bore me. Thor laughed. I'll do my best. You should, I said. The sound of laughter, fire, and clinking cups filled the hall as the feast continued deep into the night. Chapter 7, A Taste of Earth. The feast in Asgard lasted deep into the night. The hall smelled of roasted meat and spice, the sound of laughter echoing against the walls. I sat near the end of the table, my appetite finally beginning to dull. The mead was sweet enough, though heavy. I set my cup down and looked toward Thor, who was busy arm wrestling one of his warriors, both laughing as the table groaned beneath their strength. When the noise faded, I stood. The air around me quieted instantly. Every soldier and servant froze in place, eyes following my movements. Thor, I said calmly. I'm leaving your realm for now. There's nothing left here to interest me. He straightened quickly, catching his breath. Leaving already? You've barely spent a week in Asgard. I've seen enough, I replied. You and your father are strong for what you are, but I've grown bored. I'll visit your world again when something worth destroying appears. He smiled lightly. And where will you go now, Lord Beerus? Midgard, I said. The humans continue to amuse me. Their food changes faster than their leaders. Thor laughed. Then I'll have Heimdall open the bridge. He called toward the door, his voice echoing down the corridor. Moments later, Heimdall's deep tone answered from beyond the gate. The Bifrost is ready. I walked toward the exit without another word. The guards moved aside instantly. The hall's golden doors opened with a low sound, revealing the bridge ahead. Heimdall stood at its center, his expression calm as always. Returning to the mortal realm, Lord Beerus, he asked. Yes, I said. Keep the bridge ready. I may return when the mood strikes. He nodded once. As you wish. Light surrounded me again, pulling me forward. The heat of Asgard vanished, replaced by the soft pull of gravity. The sound of rushing air filled my ears before I appeared above the planet's blue sky. Earth spread out beneath me, green and alive. The clouds drifted lazily. I took a breath, catching the faint smell of the ocean. It was quiet here. I descended slowly toward the surface, the familiar skyline of New York appearing below. The damage from the Chitauri invasion had been repaired, towers gleaming, bridges intact, traffic moving steadily again. Humans were resilient. I landed on the balcony of Stark Tower, the glass doors sliding open automatically. Inside, the room was lit with soft light, music playing quietly in the background. Tony Stark looked up from the couch, a cup of coffee in one hand, tablet in the other. Well, if it isn't the Cosmic Cat, he said with his usual smirk. Back so soon? I ignored the nickname. Your realm of fire was dull. I came for food. He raised an eyebrow. You wiped out an army of lava monsters and came back because you were hungry. Yes, I said flatly. He chuckled. At least you're consistent. What do you want this time? I want to taste everything your planet has to offer, I said. The best meals from every nation. You will arrange it. He sighed and set his cup down. You really don't ask for much, do you? I don't ask, I said. I tell. He smiled faintly. Right. I'll call Pepper before you decide to vaporize the kitchen staff. He walked to the console and tapped the screen. Jarvis, get Miss Potts. Tell her we need another global food tour. Top chefs, every region. Yes, sir, the AI replied. Within minutes, the elevator opened and Pepper Potts entered, looking composed but already tired. I had a feeling this would happen again, she said, adjusting the papers in her hand. Tony pointed toward me. He's got the appetite of a black hole. I looked at her calmly. You work efficiently. I expect results quickly. She nodded politely. Of course, Lord Beerus. We'll have a selection delivered here within the hour. Not just a selection, I said. Everything worth eating. No cheap food. Her tone stayed steady. Understood. She turned and left to begin the arrangements. Tony poured himself another drink and leaned against the counter. You know, most guests just ask for coffee or a snack. I'm not most guests, I said. He smiled slightly. No argument there. The next hour passed slowly. I sat on the couch, tail swaying lazily as I looked through the window. The city was alive, cars moved like small insects, and humans filled the streets. Their energy was faint, but I could feel it everywhere. Tony sat across from me, reading something on his tablet. So what's your deal, Beerus? You just travel around breaking gods until you get hungry. I looked at him. I seek balance. Destruction creates it. You create chaos and call it progress. I remove what bores me. He grinned. Good thing I'm entertaining, then. I didn't respond. Moments later, Pepper returned, followed by several staff members carrying trays, boxes, and containers. The smell filled the entire room instantly: grilled meats, spices, baked bread, and rich sauces. The variety stretched across the table until there was no space left. Pepper gestured to the spread. Here you go. Cuisine from Japan, Italy, India, France, Korea, Greece, Mexico, Morocco, and several others. Chefs from each country prepared these personally. I nodded once. Acceptable. She exhaled quietly, relieved. If you need anything else, you'll know, I said. She took the hint and left. I began to eat. The sushi was cool and fresh, the rice seasoned properly. The curry burned pleasantly. The pasta had weight and richness. The meats were cooked with precision. The air filled with the smell of flavor from every direction. Tony watched, amused. You ever slow down? No, I said, picking up another plate. Mortals waste time chewing too long. He laughed. You're something else. As I continued, I sampled everything. The plates emptied quickly. The food was satisfying but still imperfect. Your planet improves slowly, I said. Tony leaned back. We try. Not everyone's got the power to vaporize galaxies. That's true, I said. You'd probably burn your own planet first. He pointed with his glass. You're not wrong. The city lights outside grew brighter as evening came. I finished the last plate and stood. That was adequate. Tony smiled. Just adequate. Yes. You still lack the subtlety of divine cooking. Can't argue with that, he said. So what now? You planning to stick around, or are you gonna go scare some other god into retirement? I'll stay for a while, I said. Your planet entertains me. And your food supply keeps me occupied. He nodded. Glad to hear it. Try not to blow up the tower again. I didn't the first time, I said. You humans build too fragile. He laughed quietly. You know, I could build you something sturdier. Maybe your own kitchen. Or an entire floor. You seem like a high-maintenance house guest. I looked at him thoughtfully. Do that. A private floor. Large. Quiet. Fully stocked. He blinked. You're serious? Yes, I said. He sighed. Fine. But you owe me at least one world saving in return. If your world bores me enough to destroy it, I'll save it first, I said. Great, he replied dryly. I turned toward the window again. The night lights of New York reflected on the glass. The sky was dark, but I could feel faint traces of cosmic energy nearby, nothing threatening, just the hum of distant power. Tony followed my gaze. What are you sensing? Something weak, I said. Far beyond your atmosphere. But it's not worth chasing. He nodded. Good. We've had enough alien trouble for one lifetime. I didn't answer. My focus shifted to the horizon. You humans are noisy but resourceful. You build, destroy, then build again. That's what keeps you interesting. He raised an eyebrow. Is that a compliment? Almost, I said. He smiled. I'll take it. Hours passed. The city quieted, though distant sirens still echoed faintly. The air smelled faintly of smoke and food. I remained near the window, watching. Tony eventually yawned and stood. I'm heading to bed. Try not to vaporize the cleaning robots. I turned slightly. If they touch my floor, they'll be gone. He hesitated. Noted. When he left, the tower grew quiet again. The lights dimmed automatically. I walked toward the new section of the building that his staff had begun to prepare, a large open space overlooking the skyline, still unfinished but silent. The windows stretched from floor to ceiling. I sat in one of the chairs and looked out over the world. The noise below was faint but constant. A faint gust of wind entered through the slightly open window, carrying the scent of the city smoke, fuel, and food. I closed my eyes for a brief moment, feeling the difference between this world and Asgard. Here, life was fragile and persistent. Mortals didn't rely on divine power. They built with their hands, failed, and rebuilt again. It made them slightly more tolerable. The faint sound of an aircraft passed overhead. I opened my eyes again. The tower's reflection glimmered faintly in the window. I spoke quietly to myself. As long as they keep cooking, I'll keep visiting. The night continued in silence. By morning, the tower was alive again. Pepper arrived early, bringing new trays of food. Good morning, Lord Beerus, she said carefully. We've prepared breakfast from France, Japan, and Egypt today. I sat down at the long table. You learn quickly. She smiled faintly. We try to keep you satisfied. Tony appeared, already holding coffee. I told her to keep you fed so you don't blow up my tower. I looked at him. That's smart. Continue doing that. He chuckled. Will do. I began eating. The pastries were light, the tea balanced, the fish well cooked. I nodded once. Better. Pepper smiled slightly. We'll keep improving. You should, I said. It's the only reason I'm still here. Tony looked amused. Guess we're cooking for survival now. I ignored him and continued eating until the plates were empty. When I finished, I leaned back slightly, satisfied. You may live another day, I said casually. He smirked. Appreciate it. Pepper shook her head slightly but smiled. We'll bring lunch later. Do that, I said. As they left, I turned back toward the window, tail moving slowly behind me. The city was already awake again, its sound filling the air. For now, it was enough. Chapter 8, The Hidden Nation. The days passed quietly in Stark Tower. The city below never rested, its rhythm steady, predictable. I had eaten nearly every form of human cuisine available, and while it was satisfying enough to hold my interest, the repetition was starting to wear thin. I sat near the tall windows, looking over the city lights when Tony entered the room. He carried another one of his drinks, his expression relaxed but curious. You've been quiet, Beerus. That's either good or terrifying. I didn't look at him. Your food is running out of variety. I'm bored. He smirked. We can always order more. Maybe try something exotic. There's a country in Africa with a cuisine you might actually like. Wakanda. I turned my head slightly. Wakanda. Yeah, he said, setting his drink down. Small nation. Secretive. Richest place on the planet. They've got technology more advanced than anything else here. Their king's a good man. The kind who wouldn't love you showing up uninvited. Then I'll go, I said simply. He blinked. You don't even know where it is. I'll find it. I stood, brushing off imaginary dust from my arm. If they're hiding, it only makes me curious. He raised his eyebrows. You're not gonna. I'll return when I'm finished, I said, cutting him off. Before he could answer, I vanished. The air rippled faintly where I had stood. The flight across the world was effortless. Clouds parted around me as I descended into the continent below. The air was warm and rich with the scent of earth and water. My senses stretched far ahead, searching for a concentration of energy unlike the rest of the planet. There it was. A distortion in the air, subtle but deliberate. A vast city hidden behind an invisible barrier. I landed on the rocky edge of a canyon overlooking green hills. The barrier shimmered faintly before revealing the gleaming city of Wakanda beneath. Towers of metal and glass rose from dense forests, and the hum of advanced technology filled the air. I looked over the city calmly. Interesting. Within moments, I felt eyes on me. Energy readings spiked from below. Vehicles of dark metal rose into the sky, circular crafts powered by vibranium engines. One of them hovered close. From within, a soldier called out, voice firm but cautious. Identify yourself. You are entering restricted Wakandan airspace. I looked up lazily. You can't restrict a god. The soldiers exchanged uneasy looks. Before they could react further, I raised my hand slightly. The craft's systems froze, their engines halting midair. I lowered my hand, and they drifted harmlessly back to the ground. I descended slowly until my feet touched the main courtyard below. The people gathered at a distance, whispering and pointing. Their fear was obvious. A group of guards approached, wearing sleek armor made from vibranium. Their leader, a tall man with calm eyes, stepped forward. You are trespassing in Wakanda. State your purpose. I came to eat, I said evenly. Bring me to your ruler. The man hesitated but gestured toward the palace. Follow me. We walked through the streets. The people stepped aside quickly, some bowing slightly, others watching in silence. The air buzzed with energy. This city pulsed with order, every movement precise, every light clean and strong. The palace was large, built of black stone and vibranium-lined walls. Guards stood at every entrance. As we entered, the scent of metal and burning oil filled the air. Inside, the throne room was quiet but full of presence. At its center sat a tall, broad-shouldered man wearing traditional Wakandan robes, King T'Chaka. His expression was calm, his gaze sharp. The guards stopped at the entrance. The leader bowed his head. My king. This being appeared beyond our barrier. He claims to be a god. T'Chaka's voice was steady. Leave us. The guards hesitated, then obeyed. The doors closed behind them. The king stood slowly, meeting my gaze. You are not human. Your presence feels like fire against the air. Who are you? Beerus, I said plainly. God of destruction. His brow tightened slightly. You speak boldly in my kingdom. I speak truth, I said. Your world hides power here. I came to see it. He regarded me carefully. You are far from your home, Beerus. Why come here? I grew bored, I said. Your people claim excellence. I want to see if your cooking matches your reputation. He blinked once, then gave a low, short laugh. You travel across worlds for food. Yes, I said without hesitation. Food tells me what a civilization is worth. He stepped closer, his tone even. And if our food does not please you, then I destroy your city, I said. The silence that followed was complete. T'Chaka's jaw tightened slightly, but his composure never broke. You would threaten Wakanda over a meal. It wouldn't be a threat, I said calmly. It would be an act. He studied me for a long moment before turning toward the side of the hall. You are fortunate, Beerus. Wakanda welcomes visitors who respect our ways. You will be treated as a guest for now. I smiled faintly. That's wise. He called toward the corridor. Prepare the royal kitchen. Bring our finest dishes. Servants hurried off immediately. He turned back to me. Until then, you may sit. I took a seat near the table set along the hall's center. The walls shimmered faintly with the embedded vibranium veins, glowing a soft blue. The air carried the faint hum of energy beneath the surface. T'Chaka sat across from me, his hands folded. Your power is unlike any I've felt. It disturbs the balance of this place. Your balance is fragile, I said. It's not my fault. He smiled slightly. Perhaps. But Wakanda survives by understanding power, not provoking it. That's a good start, I said. The doors opened again. Servants entered carrying trays of food, spiced meats, stews, breads, fruits, and sauces. The aroma filled the room instantly. The spices were rich, deep, and earthy. T'Chaka gestured toward the table. Wakanda's finest. Taste, and judge for yourself. I leaned forward, taking one of the plates. The meat was seasoned with pepper and herbs I didn't recognize. I bit once, slowly. The flavor was strong, balanced, and perfectly cooked. My tail flicked once in satisfaction. This, I said, is good. T'Chaka smiled faintly. Then Wakanda is safe. For now, I said. He nodded. I'll accept that. I continued eating, sampling each dish. The stew carried warmth that spread through the body, and the bread was crisp with a faint sweetness. You've done well, I said between bites. Wakanda prides itself on tradition, he said. Our cooks are trained from birth to perfect their craft. Then they have succeeded, I said. You may live comfortably. He gave a quiet laugh. You speak as if life itself depends on my hospitality. It does, I said. He didn't argue, only poured a drink into a carved cup and set it before me. Our brew. From the heart of the mountain. I took it and drank. The liquid burned faintly but carried a pleasant flavor of fruit and smoke. I nodded once. Acceptable. T'Chaka studied me carefully. Your power could crush worlds. Why visit a place like this? I wanted to, I said simply. He smiled faintly. A god with no plan. I don't need one, I said. Plans are for those without control. He gave a quiet hum of acknowledgement. Then you are free. I envy that. I doubt you'd enjoy it, I said. He chuckled softly. Perhaps not. When I finished the meal, I set the plate aside. You've earned your peace. I won't destroy your city today. That is comforting, he said. I stood slowly, looking toward the balcony that overlooked the shining city. The sky above was turning darker, the lights of Wakanda glowing stronger against the horizon. Your people have discipline, I said. That's rare for mortals. He walked beside me, his tone calm. Discipline keeps us alive. Without it, even the strongest fall. You speak like a warrior, I said. I was one, he replied. I still am, when needed. I nodded slightly. Good. A king should be able to defend what he rules. He gave a small smile. And you, Beerus? Do you defend what you destroy? No, I said. I simply decide what deserves to remain. His smile faded slightly, but he didn't challenge the statement. Then I hope Wakanda remains worthy. For now, it is, I said. But if your people grow dull, I'll know. He looked at me steadily. Then we will ensure we do not. I turned from the balcony. Tell your cooks they have pleased me. Their reward is their continued existence. He inclined his head. I will. I walked toward the door. The guards waiting outside straightened immediately. Return me to the surface, I said. Yes, Lord Beerus, one replied quickly. We exited the palace. The cool night air met me as I stepped outside. The lights of the city flickered in the distance, reflecting off the metallic towers. The guards watched silently as I rose into the sky. Below, T'Chaka stood on the balcony, watching me go. I could sense his steady aura, calm but alert. He was cautious, wise, and proud, traits that would keep his kingdom alive longer than most. I left the barrier behind, the shimmer of the invisible wall closing again beneath me. The world stretched out in every direction, dark and vast. I moved through the upper atmosphere, the planet curving beneath me. The scent of food still lingered faintly in the air. I looked down once more. They've earned their survival, I said quietly. The wind swallowed the sound as I turned east toward the ocean. Clouds drifted past, their tops glowing with the reflection of moonlight. I returned to Stark Tower before dawn. The city was still asleep. The lights below were faint, the streets mostly empty. I entered through the balcony, the glass doors opening automatically. Tony sat at the counter, half asleep, a cup of coffee in hand. You're back already? Yes, I said. Wakanda's food was worth the trip. He smiled faintly. Glad you didn't blow anything up. I thought about it, I said. But their cooking stopped me. He chuckled. Remind me never to serve you bad food. That would be smart, I said. He took a sip of coffee. So, Wakanda's real then? I've heard rumors, but nothing concrete. It exists, I said. And it hides better than you. He raised an eyebrow. That's saying something. They know how to protect what matters, I said. He nodded slowly. Maybe I should visit someday. You wouldn't be welcome, I said. He laughed quietly. Figures. I walked toward the window again, looking over the still dark skyline. The lights flickered slowly as morning approached. Your world has layers, I said. It hides more than it reveals. Yeah, Tony said. That's what makes it fun. I looked at him. Fun isn't the word I'd use. He smiled. Maybe not for you. I turned my gaze back to the city. The sound of wind brushed faintly against the glass. For now, Earth remained quiet, and that was enough. Chapter 9, The Green Beast. Morning arrived quietly over New York. The light from the rising sun reached the high floors of Stark Tower, glowing faintly against the glass walls. I stood near the window, arms crossed, watching the movement of the city below. The noise was faint but constant: cars, wind, and the distant rhythm of human life. Tony entered the room, already half-dressed in his armor chest piece, a coffee mug in one hand. Morning, Beerus. You're up early. Again. I don't sleep like mortals, I said. Their habits are inefficient. He smiled faintly. I'll take that as a compliment. I turned to face him. Where is the creature you call Hulk? He paused. Bruce? He's downstairs. Why? I've heard much about his strength, I said. I want to see it for myself. Tony's expression shifted slightly, a mix of concern and disbelief. You're serious? You want to fight him? I want to test him, I said calmly. You mortals speak as if he's unmatched. I want to know if he's worth the talk. Tony sighed. You do realize if you make him mad enough, he'll start smashing everything in sight, right? I'll handle it, I said. Bring him here. He hesitated, then nodded. All right. Don't say I didn't warn you. He tapped his wrist console. Jarvis, get Dr. Banner up here. Right away, sir. A few minutes later, the elevator doors opened. Bruce Banner stepped out, wearing a simple shirt and slacks, his expression calm but wary. Tony said you wanted to see me. I looked him over. He was lean, quiet, and carried an energy buried deep beneath the surface. The creature inside him slept, but I could feel its power resting there, heavy and waiting. Yes, I said. You're the one who turns into the Hulk. He nodded carefully. That's me. Why? I want to see it, I said. He frowned slightly. You want me to transform? Yes, I said. I want to see how strong you really are. Tony stepped closer, his tone cautious. Beerus, maybe this isn't the best idea. Bruce has been doing well keeping things calm. Calm is boring, I said. I want action. Bruce looked between us, clearly uneasy. You don't know what you're asking for. When I transform, I lose control. You don't want that happening in your building. I do, I said. Show me. He exhaled slowly. You really don't understand what you're asking for. I stepped forward, closing the distance between us. I understand perfectly. You're supposed to be the strongest of your kind. Prove it. His jaw tightened slightly. You won't like it. I don't need to like it, I said. Just do it. Tony ran a hand over his face. I'll go prep the damage control systems. He moved toward the control panel as Bruce sighed deeply. All right. Don't say I didn't warn you. His body began to change immediately. His muscles tensed, his skin shifting from pale to green. His breathing grew heavy. The sound of cracking bones filled the room. Within seconds, Bruce Banner was gone, replaced by the Hulk. The air grew heavy with his presence. His eyes glowed faintly, his voice deep and rough. Who wants fight? I smiled faintly. I do. Tony's voice came through the intercom. You sure about this, Beerus? Yes, I said. The Hulk stepped forward, his massive frame casting a shadow across the floor. He looked down at me and growled. You small. Compared to you, yes, I said calmly. Try to hit me. He roared and swung a massive fist downward. The impact cracked the reinforced floor, shaking the entire room. I didn't move. His hand passed through where I had been standing as I appeared behind him. He turned quickly, swinging again. I raised one hand and caught his fist effortlessly. The shockwave broke the nearby glass panels, sending shards into the air. I pushed his hand aside lightly. You're slower than I expected. Hulk's growl deepened. Hulk strongest there is. Not today, I said. He roared again and charged forward, slamming his shoulder into me with full force. The impact sent a gust of air across the room, knocking furniture and equipment aside. I didn't budge. His strength was immense, raw and wild, but unrefined. I reached out and flicked his forehead with one finger. The sound was small, but the result was immediate. Hulk flew backward through the air, crashing into the far wall. The structure bent inward from the force. Tony's voice came through again. Okay, that's new. He's never been knocked like that before. Hulk rose, shaking his head, roaring louder. You make Hulk angry. Good, I said. Maybe then you'll be interesting. He charged again, faster this time. I let him hit me square in the chest. The floor beneath us shattered completely. The tower trembled, alarms blaring. I looked down at his clenched fists pressing against my body. That's it. Disappointing. I raised my hand slowly and tapped his chest. The energy release sent him crashing through the glass wall and out into open air. He fell several stories before landing on the street below with a thunderous crash. I stepped out of the broken opening and floated down calmly. The air smelled of smoke and dust. Civilians ran in every direction, shouting. The Hulk stood again, shaking off debris, eyes burning with fury. He roared, the sound echoing through the entire block. His power rose sharply. The ground cracked beneath his feet. His body grew slightly larger, veins glowing faintly with green light. I landed across from him. Better. He charged again, faster now, his movements sharper, heavier. He leaped into the air and came down with both fists. The impact shattered the pavement, creating a crater. I caught his fists easily with one hand, my tail flicking behind me. I looked up at him. Still too slow. He tried to push down harder. I didn't move. Hulk strongest, he growled. You're strong, I said. But you're not me. I released his hands and appeared behind him, striking his back with a light tap. The shockwave sent him flying through several buildings. The explosions of concrete and metal filled the street. He got up again, shaking with rage, roaring louder than before. The energy rolling off him grew thicker, the air vibrating. Hulk smash God! He sprinted forward, each step cracking the ground. I let him approach this time. His fists came fast, each strike carrying tremendous weight. I dodged every one without effort, my movements small and controlled. His punches broke the air, but never touched me. He grew angrier, stronger. His aura burned brighter. Every roar seemed to shake the entire city. Tony's voice came faintly through my earpiece. You're breaking half of Manhattan, Beerus. Maybe try not to level the place. He's durable, I said. I'm letting him tire himself. The Hulk swung again. I caught his hand and twisted, throwing him upward into the sky. He crashed through the clouds, his roar echoing until it vanished. A moment later, he came back down like a meteor. I caught him by the head before he could hit the ground and slammed him into the pavement. The street split apart. Cars lifted off the ground from the shockwave. I stood over him, calm. Are you finished? He growled, trying to rise. I pressed my foot gently against his back, holding him down. You've gotten stronger with anger. But strength without control is useless. He pushed harder, the ground caving beneath him, but I didn't move. Stop, he roared. I looked down. No. He thrashed, roaring louder, his power spiking again, shockwaves rolling outward. Windows shattered for several blocks. The color of his aura deepened, flickering with intensity. I stepped off him. Show me your full power. He staggered to his feet, chest heaving, eyes glowing almost white with rage. Hulk strongest there is. He punched, the air around his fist breaking apart from the force. I caught it with one hand and crushed it into stillness. Not against me. I released a small pulse of energy from my palm. The explosion sent him flying backward into a nearby building. The entire structure collapsed in on itself. The dust settled slowly. When he emerged again, he was slower, his energy still strong, but his movements losing rhythm. His breathing was heavy, his roars shorter. He stumbled forward, punching again. I caught his wrist, then his throat, lifting him slightly off the ground. You fought well, I said. But you can't win. He tried to speak, his voice low and rough. Hulk, not lose. You already did, I said. I threw him lightly toward the street. He hit the ground hard, carving a deep trail through the concrete. When he stopped, he stayed still. His breathing slowed. The green faded gradually from his skin. Bruce Banner lay in the crater, unconscious but alive. I turned to see Tony landing nearby in full armor, his faceplate lifting. You done? Yes, I said. He lasted longer than I thought. Tony looked around at the wrecked streets. You also destroyed a dozen buildings. They were in the way, I said. He sighed. Next time, can you do your god sparring in space or something? No, I said. This was convenient. He groaned quietly. You're lucky Banner's alive. He's gonna wake up cranky. I look forward to it, I said. SHIELD aircraft approached in the distance. Tony looked up. Great. Now we get to explain this to Fury. I'll let you handle it, I said. It's your planet. He looked at me wearily. You're impossible. I smirked slightly. And yet, you still talk to me. He shook his head. I must have a death wish. I walked toward the ruined building, brushing dust from my arm. Your creature has potential. His rage is impressive, but not enough. Tony followed. You're saying you can make him stronger? I can teach him control, I said. If he survives it. Tony raised an eyebrow. You're serious? Yes, I said. But not today. I've had enough amusement. He exhaled slowly. You're gonna give me gray hair, Beerus. I'm surprised you don't have them already, I said. He chuckled softly. You're hilarious. I looked down at Bruce again. He'll wake soon. Feed him something. He'll need it. Tony nodded. Got it. I floated back into the air, rising above the destroyed city block. The sound of sirens echoed below. The wind brushed past me as I turned toward the tower again. The fight had been brief but entertaining. Hulk's power had grown steadily, yet even at his peak, he was still far below what I considered worthy. Still, there was something about him, something raw and stubborn that made him amusing. I landed back on the tower balcony, the sun now fully above the horizon. The air was warm, the city alive again. I sat down on the couch and crossed my arms, eyes half closed. For now, I was satisfied. Chapter 10, The Goddess of Death. The city below Stark Tower moved like an ocean of light. I watched it for a long time, tail flicking idly, before the thought finally came. Thor was still weak. His strength was remarkable compared to mortals, but compared to true power, he barely scratched the surface. I stood, straightened my robe, and opened the balcony doors. The air was warm, the wind gentle. Without another word, I rose into the sky, leaving the planet behind in seconds. The stars stretched out ahead as I crossed the black of space, the golden glimmer of the Bifrost forming in the distance. Asgard's glow met me soon after. I landed softly on the edge of the bridge. Heimdall was there, watching me with his calm, steady gaze. You return quickly, Lord Beerus, he said. I grew bored, I replied. I want to see how much your prince has improved. He tilted his head slightly. Thor trains daily, but his progress remains limited. You may find disappointment. I usually do, I said. Open the gate. He moved aside. The bridge shimmered beneath my feet as I crossed into the city. The familiar golden light filled the air. Soldiers bowed as I passed, though none spoke. My steps echoed lightly through the corridors until I reached the throne room. Odin sat on the throne, his expression as still as stone. Thor stood near him, hammer in hand, his posture proud but relaxed. When he saw me, his face brightened. "Lord Beerus," Thor said cheerfully. "You've returned." "I have," I said, my tone calm but sharp. "Show me what you've learned." He blinked. "Here." "Yes. Here." Odin's single eye shifted slightly, watching closely. Thor gripped Mjolnir tightly and swung it once, lightning crackling around him. He moved forward quickly, leaping with impressive force. His hammer struck toward me. I didn't move. I raised a single finger. The hammer hit it and stopped cold. The sound was soft, dull. Thor's face tightened, confusion flickering through his eyes. "That's it?" I asked. He pulled the hammer back and tried again, this time summoning a storm. Lightning filled the chamber, thunder booming overhead. He swung harder, faster. Each hit met my finger. Each one stopped instantly. "Still too weak," I said. Thor stepped back, panting lightly. "You don't even move." "I don't need to," I said. He lowered the hammer slightly, expression tense. "Then tell me how to improve." I glanced at Odin. "You should be the one teaching him. Not me." Odin exhaled slowly, standing from the throne. "He learns through trial. His growth comes from challenge." "Then give him one," I said. Odin's brow furrowed faintly. "There is one challenge I never wanted him to face." Thor looked confused. "What do you mean, father?" Odin's voice grew heavier. "You have a sister." Thor blinked. "A sister? Since when?" Odin's tone was quiet but firm. "That story is for later." I folded my arms. "Where is she?" Odin's gaze hardened slightly. "Her name is Hela. She was sealed long ago for her hunger of conquest. She is, not like you or Thor." "I'm listening," I said. "Where is she?" He hesitated. "Her prison lies at the edge of the 9 realms. A place where even gods tread carefully." "Take me there," I said. Odin looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "So be it." Thor frowned, still confused. "Father, if she's truly our kin, why was she imprisoned?" "Because she could not be stopped," Odin said simply. "But if Lord Beerus demands to see her, I cannot refuse." I looked between them. "Lead the way." Odin stepped down from the throne, his staff glowing faintly as he summoned the energy of the Bifrost. The room filled with light. The 3 of us vanished from the hall. When the brightness faded, we stood on a vast, barren plain. The sky above was grey and endless. The air felt thick, heavy, filled with the remnants of power long forgotten. Mountains rose like jagged teeth in the distance. "This," Odin said quietly, "is where Hela sleeps." I looked around. "It's empty." "For now," he said. He raised his staff and struck the ground. Energy rippled through the earth, spreading outward. The sound was low, deep. Cracks formed in the stone, light spilling through them. The wind shifted. A wave of dark energy rolled outward. The air turned cold. From the rift ahead, a voice echoed. "Father, you dare disturb me again." A figure emerged from the shadows. She was tall, her armor black and lined with green. Her eyes burned faintly, her presence sharp. The horns of her helm curved upward like blades. She looked at Odin first, her tone cold. "You sealed me away for doing what you were too afraid to finish." Thor stepped forward slightly, unsure. "You're my sister." She looked at him, her expression almost amused. You're weaker than I imagined. He gripped his hammer. We'll see. She raised a hand. Blades of dark energy formed in the air around her, then shot forward. Thor swung Mjolnir, blocking most of them, but one sliced his armor cleanly. He stumbled back, surprised. Hela, Odin said firmly. Enough. She turned her gaze toward me, studying me briefly. And who is this? Another one of your lapdogs. I met her stare without emotion. Beerus. God of destruction. She smirked slightly. A god? I've killed gods before. Not this one, I said. She tilted her head. You sound confident. I have reason to, I said. She laughed quietly, stepping closer. Show me. I raised one hand. You first. She didn't hesitate. Energy flared around her as hundreds of blades formed again, filling the air with a sharp hum. She launched them all at once, each moving with deadly precision. I lifted my hand and released a small pulse of energy. The blades disintegrated before they reached me. The air went still again. Her eyes narrowed. What? I appeared in front of her in an instant, faster than her eyes could follow. You're slow. Before she could move, I struck her in the chest with an open palm. The impact sent a shockwave through the air, tearing the ground apart for miles. The sound was sharp, short. Her body flew backward, crashing into a mountain of stone. The entire peak crumbled instantly. Thor shielded his face from the blast, staring in disbelief. By the gods! When the dust cleared, Hela was half buried in the rubble, motionless. Her armor was shattered, her energy faint. I looked at Odin. That's it. He didn't answer immediately. His face was unreadable. Thor looked between us. She's supposed to be the strongest among us. I turned back toward Hela's fallen form. Then your standards are low. Odin exhaled slowly. She is powerful, but even power has limits. Against you, no one in these realms stands a chance. I stepped closer to the rebel. Hela stirred faintly, coughing once. You mock me. No, I said. I'm teaching you. Her eyes flashed briefly. Teaching. I crouched slightly. Power means nothing if you can't back it up. She tried to raise her hand, but I caught it and pressed it back down with a light touch. Rest. You've proven your point. Her glare softened slightly, the fight leaving her. I'll kill you one day. I smiled faintly. You won't get the chance. She went still again. Thor walked closer, still holding his hammer tightly. I can't believe I have a sister. Odin looked at him. You were not ready to know. She was the firstborn, created for conquest. Her hunger for battle nearly destroyed everything. Thor frowned. And you sealed her away. I had no choice, Odin said quietly. I stood and turned toward him. She's alive. She'll heal. Keep her contained if you can. If she escapes, I'll erase her properly. Odin gave a short nod. I understand. Thor looked uneasy. You don't need to destroy her. She's your family, I said. That's your burden, not mine. He said nothing. Odin raised his staff again, summoning the Bifrost. The light surrounded us, pulling us back to Asgard. The grey wasteland vanished. When the light faded, we were once again in the throne room. Thor set his hammer down, still processing what he had learned. You could have killed her easily, he said quietly. I could have, I said. But that would have been boring. Odin sat back on his throne, his tone even. Your strength is beyond measure, Lord Beerus. I thank you for your restraint. I didn't do it for you, I said. I wanted entertainment. She was barely that. Thor crossed his arms. You expect too much from us. I expect power to be used properly, I said. Not wasted on speeches and posturing. He laughed softly. You sound like father. Odin smiled faintly. Perhaps wisdom and destruction are not so far apart. I ignored the comment and walked toward the large window overlooking the city. You should strengthen your armies. If something greater than her appears, this realm will fall in seconds. Odin's tone was calm. We will take your advice seriously. Do that, I said. I don't want to waste time cleaning up your failures. Thor lifted Mjolnir again, sparks forming around him. I'll train harder. You'll see. I looked at him over my shoulder. You'd better. The gap between us is embarrassing. He grinned despite the insult. Then I'll make sure to close it. You won't, I said. He laughed quietly. You could at least pretend to believe in me. I could, I said, but I don't. Odin chuckled softly. You two are alike in your stubbornness. Thor looked up. Father, what will you do with her now? She will remain sealed until the day comes when she must rise again, Odin said firmly. But if she tries to escape, we will handle it. I turned toward the exit. Good. I'll hold you to that. Thor stepped forward. Leaving so soon? I've seen enough, I said. I'll return when you're stronger or when your sister causes trouble again. He nodded. Then we'll be ready. I doubt it, I said, though the faintest hint of a smirk crossed my face. Odin's voice carried across the hall. May your travels remain peaceful, Lord Beerus. I don't do peaceful, I said. The guards opened the doors as I walked out. The halls were quiet again, the golden light reflecting off the walls. The air was calm, steady, almost too still for my liking. I reached the balcony and looked out over Asgard one last time before rising into the sky. The realm glowed faintly below, orderly and proud. I left it behind in seconds, returning to the vast emptiness of space. Chapter 11, The Blue Cube. The return to space was quiet. I moved through the dark faster than light, the stars shifting around me. The air of Asgard still lingered faintly on my clothes, the smell of gold, iron, and order. I preferred Earth. It was loud, chaotic, and stupid, but it was alive. When I broke through the planet's atmosphere, clouds parted below me. The smell of salt and smoke filled the air. I descended toward Stark Tower again. The city's lights glowed against the dark ocean, smaller than the flames of the stars but more restless. I landed on the balcony softly. The glass doors opened at my approach. Inside, Tony Stark stood in front of a holographic projection that covered half the room. He didn't look surprised to see me. Back from your godly business already? Yes, I said. It was dull. He smiled slightly. Figures. You probably beat someone into the ground again. I did, I said. It was easy. He shook his head. Of course it was. You're impossible. I'm efficient, I said. He pointed to the hologram. Since you're back, you might want to see this. Fury's been calling me non-stop. Something about a power source acting up in one of their bases. I looked at the display. A cube of blue light floated in the center, surrounded by readings and graphs. The Tesseract. He blinked. You know what it is? Yes, I said. It's one of the Infinity Stones. The Space Stone. Dangerous, if misused. He frowned. Figures. Fury said it's unstable, but no one knows why. It's supposed to be locked up in some bunker. I folded my arms. Show me where. He tapped a few keys, bringing up a satellite image of a facility in the Arctic Circle. This is S.H.I.E.L.D.S base. Fury's people are already there. Prepare your machine, I said. My what? The suit, I said. You'll follow me. He stared at me for a moment. You're serious? Yes. He sighed, pressing a button on his wrist. Friday, prep Mark 47 for flight. Right away, sir, the AI replied. Within minutes, his armor locked around him piece by piece. The hum of energy filled the room. He looked up at me, helmet closing with a hiss. All right. Let's go babysit the universe again. I floated out the open balcony, and he followed, engines roaring. The city vanished below us in moments. We crossed the Atlantic in seconds, the wind tearing at the clouds. The cold came next, the kind of cold that could freeze most mortals solid in minutes. The SHIELD base appeared ahead, built into a mountain of ice. Helicopters circled it, lights cutting through the dark sky. On the landing platform, figures moved in hurried lines. I descended slowly, my feet touching the frozen ground. The air stank of oil and exhaust. Tony landed beside me, the snow crunching under his boots. Agents froze at our arrival. One of them stepped forward cautiously, hand to his earpiece. Director Fury, we've got visitors. A door opened near the base of the platform, and Nick Fury himself stepped out. His black coat flapped in the cold wind, his single eye sharp. Beerus, he said flatly. I figured you'd show up eventually. I looked at him. You should be grateful. I'm not sure I am, he said. The last time you helped, half the city almost came down. Tony raised his hand. To be fair, that was mostly Banner. Fury ignored him. We've got an energy surge coming from the Tesseract. It's been stable for years, but now it's reacting to something we can't identify. Show me, I said. He led us through the corridors. The metal walls hummed faintly. Every few steps, guards and scientists moved aside, staring as I passed. Their fear was obvious. The main chamber was large and circular. At its center, held inside a containment field of blue light, floated the Tesseract. The glow pulsed like a heartbeat, each wave stronger than the last. Fury gestured toward it. That's the problem. I walked closer. The energy brushed against my skin, light but constant. It's trying to open a gate, I said. Tony frowned. A gate to where? Space, I said. It's calling something. The hum grew louder. The air thickened with energy. Sparks flickered around the cube. The containment field wavered. Fury barked orders. Shut it down. Technicians scrambled across the panels, shouting readings. Sir, the energy's off the scale. It's pulling power from our entire grid. Tony stepped forward. Let me try. It's too late, I said. The cube flared. A beam of blue light shot upward, cutting through the ceiling. The shockwave threw several agents to the floor. The light twisted in the air, forming a swirling portal. The sound of energy tore through the room. Fury covered his face. What the hell is that? A doorway, I said calmly. From the light, a figure began to form. Tall, lean, wrapped in black and green armor. His eyes glowed faintly. The smirk on his face was familiar. Tony muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." Loki stepped through the portal, the glow fading behind him. He looked around the room with an easy confidence, the scepter in his hand gleaming with blue light. Fury's tone was sharp. "Who the hell are you?" Loki smiled. "I am Loki of Asgard. And I come with a gift." Tony whispered, "That's Thor's brother, right?" "Yes, I said. The troublesome one. Loki's gaze moved to me. You must be the one they call Beerus. The god of destruction. I met his eyes. You know me. Thor speaks too much, he said with a faint grin. And yet, I'm curious. What brings a god like you to this small, fragile world? I came for the cube, I said. He raised his hand, twirling the scepter. Then we want the same thing. I looked at him evenly. You'll lose. His smile widened. We'll see. He raised the scepter, firing a beam of energy toward me. It hit my chest directly, exploding in a flash of blue light. Smoke filled the air. When it cleared, I hadn't moved. The blast hadn't even scorched my robe. Loki's smirk faded slightly. Interesting. I lifted my hand, flicking my wrist lightly. The energy around him collapsed, and he flew backward into the wall, the impact leaving a dent in the metal. Fury stepped forward. You could have warned me. You were in no danger, I said. Loki groaned, standing slowly. His eyes burned brighter. You'll regret that. He swung the scepter again, sending several blasts of energy. I raised one finger, deflecting each shot with a flick. The beams scattered, cutting harmlessly through the walls. You're wasting my time, I said. He lunged forward, the scepter striking toward my head. I caught it easily, twisting it out of his hand. You're weak, I said, snapping it in half. The blue gem inside flickered and went dark. Loki fell to one knee, panting. His composure was gone. What are you? I told you, I said. A god. Tony lowered his arm, his suit's repulsors cooling down. Well, that's one way to handle it. Fury approached, eyeing the shattered weapon. You just broke an alien staff like it was plastic. It was poorly made, I said. The tesseract pulsed again, the light flickering violently. Tony's readings appeared on his visor. Energy spiking again. I looked at the cube. It's still connected to the portal network. He's not the only one who came through. Fury's tone was sharp. More incoming. Yes, I said. But not yet. The cube needs time to stabilize. Tony frowned. So what do we do with it? Leave it, I said. I'll handle it. Fury hesitated. You sure? I looked at him. Do you want to touch it yourself? He sighed. Point taken. The agents began clearing the room, dragging Loki to his feet. He glared at me, breathing heavily. You can't stop what's coming. I can, I said. I just did. He laughed weakly. You don't understand. The others. I raised a hand. Enough talking. He went silent instantly, his body freezing mid-motion. I turned my attention back to the tesseract. Its glow dimmed slightly under my gaze. Tony stepped closer. You're not going to break that too, right? No, I said. It's useful. Fury crossed his arms. You sure that thing's safe to leave here? It's safe while I'm here, I said. Tony looked at him. He's not wrong. Fury sighed. All right. But if it starts glowing again, I'm blaming you both. Tony smirked. Noted. I raised my hand slightly. The cube floated upward, hovering just above my palm. Its light pulsed once, then steadied. Quiet now, I said. Tony tilted his head. You can control it. I can control anything, I said. He chuckled. I'll keep that in mind. I set the cube back into its containment chamber. Seal it. Don't touch it again without my permission. Fury nodded. Understood. As he began barking orders to the agents, Tony leaned closer to me. So, that guy's Thor's brother. You think he's working alone? No, I said. He never does. He frowned. So who's he working with? Someone worse, I said. Fury looked back at us. Then we'll need to prepare. You won't be ready, I said. He gave a short laugh. We'll take our chances. I turned away from them, heading toward the exit. Tony followed. So you're just leaving? I stopped the problem, I said. My work is done. He gestured toward the cube. That thing's still dangerous. Not to me, I said. He sighed. You're a real comfort, you know that. I know, I said. We stepped outside. The cold hit instantly. The night sky stretched endlessly overhead, filled with stars. The sound of the wind cut through the silence. Tony's armor retracted slightly, revealing his face. You really think there's something else coming? Yes, I said. He'll come for the stones. It's inevitable. Thanos, he said quietly. I looked at him. You know the name. I've heard whispers, he said. S.H.I.E.L.D files. Intergalactic warlord. Wipes out half the planets he visits. He's efficient, I said. Tony frowned. That's one way to put it. He won't reach this world yet, I said. He's patient. But when he does, I'll be here. Tony looked at me. You planning to protect Earth? I'm planning to protect my entertainment, I said. He laughed softly. That's comforting, in a weird way. I looked up at the stars again. It should be. He sealed his helmet. Come on. Let's get out of the cold before you decide to vaporize the ice caps. I could, I said. Yeah, he said. That's what scares me. I rose into the air, leaving the base behind. The hum of his armor followed beneath me. Below, the Tesseract's light flickered faintly through the cracks of the mountain, quiet but alive. We reached the edge of the atmosphere quickly. The ocean stretched beneath, vast and dark. I slowed, looking down for a moment. Tony hovered beside me. You're thinking. I don't think, I said. I decide. He smirked. Fair enough. We descended back toward the city, the lights of New York appearing again through the clouds. The tower gleamed ahead, waiting. When we landed on the balcony, I turned to him. Tell Fury to leave the cube alone. If he meddles again, I'll erase the base. He nodded. I'll tell him. Though he probably won't like it. He'll listen, I said. Tony sighed, walking toward the console. You're really something, Beerus. I know, I said. I sat down on the couch, stretching slightly. Bring food. He looked over his shoulder. You're unbelievable. That's why I'm a god, I said. He laughed quietly and disappeared into the kitchen. The tower lights dimmed as the city outside continued its endless rhythm. Chapter 12, The Soldier of Strength. The tower was quiet again. The smell of coffee and steel hung in the air. Tony worked on one of his suits in the lower workshop, sparks flying across the table. I stood near the window, tail swaying slowly, eyes fixed on the skyline. The humans below carried on with their noise and chaos, but none of it mattered. The last few days had been repetitive meetings, chatter, and reports about the cube. I could sense that the humans were growing restless, trying to understand forces they couldn't control. But one thing caught my attention. Tony had mentioned another human, a man who fought in the old wars and somehow still lived. He called him Captain America. A mortal frozen for decades, reborn into a world that moved past him. The idea was strange, but the strength he carried in battle was still spoken of with respect. Tony said he was disciplined, direct, and impossibly moral. That combination sounded irritating. Still, I wanted to see him. I turned from the window. Stark? Tony looked up, welding mask lifted. Yet. Where's your soldier? I asked. He frowned. You mean Cap? He's with Fury. S.H.I.E.L.D.S got him doing physical evaluations or something. Bring him here, I said. Tony tilted his head. You want to meet him? I want to test him, I said plainly. He sighed, wiping grease from his hands. You and your tests. All right, I'll call Fury. But try not to level the tower again. I'll try, I said. He gave me a pointed look. That doesn't sound reassuring. It shouldn't, I said. He muttered something under his breath and tapped his COMM link. Fury, you there? A crackle of static filled the room before Fury's voice came through. What do you need, Stark? Beerus wants to meet Captain America. There was a pause. Why? He didn't say. Fury's tone was dry. I'm not sure I like the sound of that. Tony sighed. You're not the only one. Another pause. Fine. I'll send Rogers. Tell your god friend to behave. He heard you, Tony said. I'm sure he did. The line cut. Tony looked at me. He's on his way. Try not to break him. I make no promises, I said. 2 hours later, the elevator doors opened. Steve Rogers stepped out, wearing casual clothes but walking with the unmistakable posture of a soldier. His eyes took in everything: the room, the equipment, and then me. Tony greeted him with a grin. Cap. Welcome to my home. Or fortress, depending on how you look at it. Steve nodded. Thanks for the invitation. Fury said this was important. Tony glanced toward me. He wanted to meet you. Steve turned to me, expression steady. You must be Beerus. I looked at him, unimpressed. You must be the soldier. He nodded once. Steve Rogers. I know, I said. You fought in a war that ended before most of this planet was born into peace. You've aged well for a corpse. He didn't react, his voice calm. I've heard worse. I stepped closer, arms crossed. You're supposed to be one of Earth's strongest warriors. Show me. Tony groaned quietly. Here we go. Steve frowned slightly. Show you what? Your strength, I said. I want to see it. I'm not sure what you're asking for. I tilted my head slightly. Fight me. His eyebrows rose. You want me to fight you? Yes. Tony stepped forward quickly. Hey, maybe that's not the best idea. You've seen what happens when Beerus fights people. The building usually ends up in pieces. Steve looked between us. If this is about proving something, I'm not interested in that. It's not about proving anything, I said. I want to see what makes you special. He studied me carefully. And if I refuse? I'll destroy something until you agree, I said. He sighed. Fine. But we do this my way. No civilians, no collateral. Agreed, I said. Tony threw his hands up. You two are insane. All right, fine. But you're doing this outside. Somewhere that won't get me fined by the city. I looked at him. You can rebuild it. I'm not rebuilding New York again, he said firmly. Then pick a place, I said. He thought for a moment. Desert. Nevada. Open space, no people. Good, I said. Within the hour, we stood in the middle of a barren desert plain. The sun was high, the air dry. The horizon stretched endlessly. Tony hovered above us in his armor, watching. All right, gentlemen. Try not to vaporize each other. I looked at Steve. Begin when ready. He rolled his shoulders once, cracking his neck. I don't know what you're expecting. A challenge, I said. He exhaled and charged forward, his movements fast and controlled. His shield swung in a tight arc, striking toward my head. I caught it with one hand. The vibration carried through the metal into my fingers. He jumped back instantly, resetting his stance. His movements were efficient military precision, minimal waste. He moved again, aiming for my legs this time. The shield slammed into my shin with a solid clang. I didn't move. He looked up briefly, surprised by the lack of reaction. I reached down and tapped the edge of his shield with one finger. The impact threw him backward, his feet sliding across the sand. He landed in a crouch, digging in to stop himself. Tony's voice came through the suit speaker. That was a tap. He barely touched you. Steve ignored him and rushed forward again. This time, he used speed and agility, circling around me, looking for openings. He swung the shield toward my side. I raised a single arm and caught it again. You rely too much on that shield, I said. It works, he said. Not against me. I flicked my wrist. The shield flew from his hand, spinning high into the air before embedding itself deep into a distant rock. He didn't hesitate. He moved in close, punching, kicking, dodging. His strikes were clean, practiced. His fists hit with force, but each impact barely registered. I allowed him a few solid hits, watching his form. His breathing remained steady, his rhythm precise. His focus didn't waver, not even when his attacks failed to move me. You're disciplined, I said. That's rare for a mortal. He stepped back slightly, sweat on his brow. You're not human. That much is obvious. I'm a god, I said. Remember that. He nodded once. I believe it. He moved again, faster this time, adrenaline pushing him beyond his earlier rhythm. His movements blurred slightly. He ducked low, rolled under my arm, and hit me squarely in the chest with a full-force punch. The sand burst outward from the impact. I didn't move. He stepped back, breathing heavier now. You're built different. Tony hovered above, watching. That's putting it mildly. I lifted one hand slowly. You've proven your strength. Now see mine. Before he could react, I pressed my finger against his chest lightly. The air cracked. A burst of energy sent him flying backward, skidding across the desert for over 100 meters before stopping. He coughed once, getting to his feet slowly. That hurt. You're still standing, I said. Barely, he muttered. He looked up at me, determination still in his eyes. You could have killed me. I could have, I said. But that wasn't the point. He straightened his back. Then what is the point? To see if you'd get back up, I said. He smiled faintly. Guess I passed. You did, I said. Tony landed nearby, faceplate lifting. Well, congratulations. You survived Beerus. That's more than most can say. Steve exhaled slowly, brushing sand from his uniform. You two have a strange definition of success. Tony smirked. Welcome to our world. I walked closer, looking down at him. You're strong for a mortal. Stronger than most I've met. But strength without power is still limited. He met my gaze. I know that. But power isn't everything. It is when you face gods, I said. He nodded once. Then I'll keep fighting anyway. Tony looked between us. You two done with the macho speeches? Because I think the sand's about to turn to glass if Beerus gets bored again. I glanced at him. I'm not bored. Yet. Yet, Tony repeated dryly. That's comforting. Steve retrieved his shield from the rock, brushing the dust off it. The metal glowed faintly where it had struck. Thanks for the test, I guess. You should be grateful, I said. Few mortals get the chance to fight me and live. He smiled slightly. I'll add it to my list of strange experiences. Tony clapped his shoulder. Welcome to the club. I turned away from them, looking toward the horizon. The desert stretched endlessly, the air shimmering with heat. You humans are interesting. Fragile, but stubborn. Steve adjusted his shield. We survive because we have to. I nodded faintly. Maybe that's why you haven't been erased yet. He looked at me, uncertain if it was an insult or compliment. I'll take that as a good thing. It was, I said. Tony exhaled, looking at his scanners. All right, gentlemen. Let's pack it up before someone from the government mistakes this for a missile test. He flew upward, engines roaring. Steve looked at me. You're not as bad as people make you out to be. They don't know me, I said. He smiled faintly. Maybe that's for the best. I watched him turn away, walking back toward the transport ship waiting nearby. The desert wind carried dust across the plain, the light of the setting sun reflecting off his shield. Tony hovered next to me. You didn't destroy him. That's progress. I wasn't trying to, I said. He's too disciplined for that. Yeah, Tony said. He's got that old school hero thing going. Kind of annoying sometimes, but it grows on you. I've noticed, I said. He laughed. You're learning empathy, Beerus. I'm proud. I looked at him. I'm hungry. He rolled his eyes. Of course you are. All right, back to the tower. I'll have Pepper order something. Maybe from that Wakandan place you liked. Do that, I said. We lifted off, the desert shrinking beneath us. The air thinned as we ascended, the curve of the earth visible beyond the horizon. As we flew back, I looked down once more at the world below, tiny, imperfect, but still holding my attention. For now, that was enough. Chapter 13, The Titan's Shadow. The air inside Stark Tower was heavy with the smell of coffee and machine oil. The lights from the city below flickered faintly through the windows. I sat on the couch with a plate of food on the table before me, tail moving slowly as I ate. The food was fine, but my thoughts were elsewhere. Something far beyond this planet had begun to stir. I felt it first as a faint pull, like gravity that didn't belong to this world. The sensation grew stronger with each hour, steady, deliberate, and cold. Tony entered the room, wiping his hands on a towel. You look like you're thinking again. That usually means bad news for someone. It means trouble, I said. Something is moving in deep space. He frowned, setting the towel down. Define something. Thanos, I said plainly. Tony blinked, his usual humor gone. You're serious? Yes, I said. He's begun gathering his armies. His eyes are fixed on the stones. Tony walked to the table and pulled up a holographic display, the blue light illuminating his face. Fury mentioned that name before. Some intergalactic warlord, right? You think he's coming for the Tesseract? He is, I said. And the rest of the stones after that. He rubbed his chin. So we've got, what, one of them here on Earth? Two, I said. The Mind Stone is still embedded in Loki's staff. The Tesseract holds the Space Stone. Both are already on this planet. Tony swore under his breath. Of course they are. I stood, brushing crumbs from my robe. He'll send scouts first. I'll go meet them. Tony looked up sharply. Alone? I don't need help, I said. He nodded slowly. I wasn't going to offer. I know, I said. He smirked faintly despite himself. Try not to blow up the moon. I'll consider it, I said. The air around me shimmered, then broke as I vanished. The sound of displaced wind filled the room for a moment before silence returned. Outside Earth's atmosphere, the emptiness was vast and still. The stars hung motionless in the black. I could sense movement far beyond the solar system ships, hundreds of them, slowly converging toward one path. The energy they emitted was faint but growing. I traveled faster. Galaxies blurred past in moments. The void around me hummed with quiet power. When I stopped, I floated at the edge of a massive fleet. The ships were dark, built like weapons. Each radiated Thanos' influence, efficient, disciplined, and entirely without warmth. The largest ship stood at the center, enormous enough to eclipse planets. Its metal hull glowed faintly from the light of distant stars. I crossed the distance in seconds and appeared before the bridge. The glass windows reflected my image as I hovered silently. Inside, I could see movement aliens of various races, armored and armed. At their center stood one figure taller than the rest, his armor gold and black, his skin purple. Thanos. He turned his head slowly, as though sensing me. His eyes met mine through the glass. He gave no sign of surprise, only calm acknowledgement. With a motion of his hand, the ship's shields disengaged, and a doorway opened along the hull. I entered without resistance. The air inside was cold. The walls were lined with metallic panels engraved with unfamiliar markings. The soldiers stationed along the corridor lowered their weapons immediately, fear tightening their movements. I ignored them and walked forward until the path opened into the command deck. Thanos stood near a large projection of the universe, several points of light blinking across its surface. He didn't move as I approached. Beerus, he said in a low, even voice. It's been a long time since I've sensed power like yours. I wasn't hiding, I said. He turned slowly, the faint sound of his armor shifting. You stand far from your realm. Why come here? To stop you, I said. He smiled faintly. You plan to stop me from restoring balance to the universe. I plan to stop you from touching my entertainment, I said. His smile faded slightly. Ah! The humans. You find them amusing. For now, I said. You'll leave them alone. He looked at me carefully. Do you protect them out of affection? I protect what I own, I said. Thanos nodded slightly. You claim dominion over a world that is already destined to fall. Interesting. Destiny doesn't concern me, I said. He studied me for a moment before stepping closer. His presence filled the room, immense, steady, and cold. You understand power. You understand necessity. You could join me. I don't join anyone, I said. He tilted his head slightly. Even gods must recognize inevitability. I destroy inevitabilities, I said. For the first time, his composure shifted slightly. Then show me. He swung his arm. The metal of his armor glowed faintly as he struck toward me. The force of the swing shattered the air around us, sending shockwaves through the chamber. I caught his fist with one hand. The floor cracked beneath us. He pushed harder, but my grip didn't move. I looked him in the eye. You're strong. I can see why mortals fear you. He pulled his arm back and swung again, faster. I sidestepped, letting his fist pass harmlessly by. My hand came up lightly, pressing against his chest. The impact sent him sliding backward several meters. The metal under his feet groaned from the force. His expression didn't change. Impressive. You're slow, I said. He adjusted his stance slightly. You mistake patience for weakness. He raised his hand. A sphere of energy formed, dense and dark, pulsing with compressed gravity. He threw it toward me. The explosion consumed the air, the entire section of the ship shaking violently. When the smoke cleared, I stood where I had been, untouched. He frowned slightly. Interesting. I lifted my hand, forming a small orb of purple energy between my fingers. Hawkeye. The orb shot forward. He raised his arm to block, but the energy disintegrated the metal of his armor instantly, the surface of his skin burning faintly before the power dissipated. He looked down at his arm, then back at me. You could have erased me. Yes, I said. Why didn't you? Because I'm not done eating on Earth, I said. He gave a quiet laugh. You truly are a strange god. You have no idea, I said. He looked at the holographic map again, his tone calm. You know what I seek. I do, I said. And you won't have it. He turned back to me, the faintest hint of amusement returning. You think you can stop me? I don't think, I said. I know. He nodded once. Then we are at an impasse. No, I said. You're at a warning. He folded his arms. If I decide to continue, then I'll erase your fleet, I said. He looked around the bridge briefly. You would destroy thousands to make a point. They're yours, I said. They don't matter. He smiled faintly. You and I are not so different. I'm not you, I said sharply. He gave a quiet hum. Perhaps not. But you understand power, as I do. And you understand that balance cannot exist without destruction. Balance exists when I say it does, I said. He stared at me for a long moment before finally speaking again. Then I will respect your request for now. Earth will remain untouched. But you cannot protect it forever. I only need to protect it long enough to keep myself entertained, I said. He nodded once, a faint gleam in his eyes. Then we'll meet again, Beerus. You won't enjoy it, I said. I turned and walked toward the exit. The soldiers along the walls moved aside instantly, heads bowed. The air behind me trembled slightly as I left the ship and re-entered space. When I looked back, the massive vessel was still. It didn't follow. Thanos kept his word for now. I returned to Earth in moments. The atmosphere burned faintly around me as I descended. Stark Tower came into view once more, its lights bright against the dark sky. I landed on the balcony. Tony was already waiting, drink in hand. So, how'd it go? He's preparing, I said. That's not reassuring, he said. It wasn't meant to be, I said. He sighed, setting the glass down. You talked to him? Yes, I said. And? He'll stay away from Earth for now, I said. Tony looked out the window at the city. You really think he'll keep his word? He knows better than to lie to me, I said. Tony shook his head. You've got a weird way of keeping peace. It works, I said. He smirked. Can't argue with results. I walked to the table and picked up another piece of food. You should prepare anyway. He'll return eventually. Tony nodded. That's what I'm best at. You're arrogant, I said. He smiled faintly. So are you. I earned it, I said. He laughed quietly. You sure did. I looked toward the skyline again. When he comes, your world will fall unless you're ready. Tell Fury. Tell your soldiers. Tell everyone who can fight. Tony leaned back in his chair. That's what we've been doing since you showed up. Then keep doing it, I said. He looked at me carefully. You're not leaving, are you? Not yet, I said. I want to see how strong your people can become before they're tested. He grinned. You just want to see us struggle. It's entertaining, I said. He raised his glass. Glad we can amuse you. I didn't respond. I watched the city lights flicker, each one representing a life too small to see from the stars. They were fragile, but they were stubborn. For now, that was enough. Tony broke the silence. You know, if he really is coming, we're going to need everyone: Thor, Cap, Banner. Even that kid from Queens. You'll need all of them, I said. He nodded slowly. And you'll help. I'll watch, I said. He gave a short laugh. Figures. The tower grew quiet again. The sound of the city below faded into the background. For the first time in a long while, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Chapter 14, The Dead Universe. The night passed quietly over Stark Tower. I stood on the balcony again, arms crossed as I looked at the horizon. The air was still, almost too still. The Tesseract's faint pulse could still be felt from across the city. It hummed softly, steady but impatient. I could sense it calling through the fabric of the cosmos, like a door waiting to open. Tony slept. The tower's lights were low. The humans were fragile things, but their resilience continued to amuse me. Still, Earth had grown dull again. Thanos had retreated into his schemes. The heroes were training. The food, though good, had lost its novelty. I turned my gaze upward, into the black expanse of space. My eyes narrowed slightly. Beyond this reality, beyond its stars, I could feel the faint echo of another universe. A wrong one. Its energy was foul, rotting, cold, infected with something unnatural. I reached out with my power and felt its pulse. It was unmistakably part of the same cosmic structure, but twisted. Life there wasn't life anymore. I remembered hearing whispers from other gods' universes where existence had gone wrong. Where hunger had replaced thought. It sounded interesting. I raised my hand, drawing on the fabric of destruction itself. Space bent, forming a ripple that tore apart the sky in front of me. A void opened, a black wound bordered with purple light. I looked into it and felt the other world's air seeping through. It smelled like decay. Tony's voice came faintly from behind me. Hey, what the hell are you doing? I didn't turn around. Leaving. Leaving where? Somewhere different, I said. He frowned, walking closer, armor half assembled. Different how? You wouldn't survive there, I said. Stay here. He sighed. And if you don't come back? I always come back, I said, and stepped into the tier. The world folded instantly. The sound of air and energy collided. The light around me dimmed until nothing remained but silence. Then, the new universe revealed itself. I stood above Earth again, but not the same one. The atmosphere was thick and dark, tinted red. Clouds hung heavy with ash. The continents below were scarred, cities burned to ruin. Even from space, I could smell it rot and smoke. I descended slowly through the clouds. The first city that appeared beneath me was New York, or what was left of it. Skyscrapers stood half collapsed, their tops broken off like snapped bones. The streets were littered with debris and corpses. Some still moved. I landed softly in the middle of Times Square. The air was heavy, hot with decay. The silence was interrupted by faint noises, growls, footsteps, the shuffle of bodies that should not have been moving. I looked around. So this is what happens when mortals eat each other. A low groan echoed behind me. I turned. A man, half his face missing, staggered forward. His eyes were cloudy, mouth open. His jaw hung at an unnatural angle. I raised my hand. You're already dead. A flick of my finger erased him. His body turned to dust before it hit the ground. The ash floated in the wind. But then more came, dozens of them, crawling out from buildings and alleys. Some wore torn uniforms. Others wore the remains of hero suits I recognized. One had the remnants of Captain America's shield strapped to his arm. His flesh was grey, his face half gone. I looked at him. Pathetic. He roared, charging forward with a sound that was half human, half beast. I waited until he was close, then moved once. A single strike to the chest sent him flying backward, crashing through a broken bus. The others swarmed, climbing over one another in a frenzy. I flicked my wrist and released a wave of energy. The street vanished. The bodies disintegrated instantly, leaving only the faint hiss of vaporized air. I looked around. The city was empty again. Disgusting, I said quietly. But there was more. Much more. Across the planet, I could sense stronger energy signatures, familiar ones, but wrong. I closed my eyes, tracing their locations. Several stood out immediately. One was in Wakanda. Another, in the ruins of what had once been the Avengers base. I began walking through the air, each step carrying me hundreds of miles. The landscape beneath me shifted from grey to red to black. Forests were stripped bare, rivers dry. The planet felt drained of everything except hunger. When I arrived in Wakanda, I saw the remains of its walls. The Great Barrier had fallen. The city was in ruins. Fires still burned faintly. And yet, movement stirred among the corpses. I descended into the courtyard. The first creature that greeted me wore gold armor, its black skin stretched tight over its skull. King T'Challa, but half of him was gone. His left arm was missing, the wound charred but still moving. His eyes glowed faintly blue. He turned toward me and hissed. "Fresh." I looked down at him. "You still have your voice." "Impressive." He lunged forward, faster than most of the others. I caught his wrist, squeezing lightly. His bones cracked. He screamed, or tried to. I looked into his eyes. "You should have stayed dead." I released a small pulse of energy. His body crumbled to ash. The sound drew others. More of them appeared from the shadows, Wakandan soldiers, each infected, each hungry. I didn't bother to fight. I simply raised my hand and erased them all in one sweep. The city became silent again. I floated above the ruins, looking down. The infection wasn't natural. It carried traces of magic and quantum distortion. Someone had tampered with the structure of life itself. I could sense their energy, the origin point of the plague. It pulsed faintly from the northern hemisphere. I moved again, traveling faster than light until the air around me burned. I stopped above the ruins of what had once been New Jersey. The energy below was immense, tangled with reality itself. I descended slowly. When I landed, I saw the source. Doctor Strange, or what was left of him, stood in the center of a ruined courtyard. His cloak was torn, his hands covered in black rot. His face was gaunt, eyes glowing with unnatural hunger. Energy crackled faintly around him. "Another survivor," he said in a voice that was no longer human. "I'm not a survivor," I said. He tilted his head. "You're not from here." "No," I said. "You're the one who caused this." He smiled faintly. "Not I. Not entirely. It was hunger that came from beyond. I only tried to contain it. But it spread. It always spreads." I walked closer. You failed. His hand twitched. Energy gathered around his fingers, a sickly green light. I can feed on power. Yours would sustain me for eternity. I raised my hand lazily. Try. He threw his spell forward. The air split with a violent pulse of energy, the ground beneath him cracking apart. The explosion filled the ruins with green light. When it cleared, I hadn't moved. He looked at me, expression faltering. Impossible. I stepped forward, closing the distance. You're infected, weakened, and still arrogant. He raised another hand, summoning dozens of spectral arms behind him. They lashed forward, but I brushed them aside like dust. I placed one finger against his forehead. You should have stayed in your realm. Before he could react, I released energy. His head vanished. The rest of his body followed. Nothing remained but silence and falling ash. The ground beneath me glowed faintly where he had stood. I could feel the infection's core fading. Without him, the magic holding this world's dead together began to unravel. I could hear it happening. Across the planet, the growls and screams began to fade. The faint energy signatures of the undead winked out one by one. Within minutes, the noise was gone. The wind returned. I stood in the middle of the courtyard, the air heavy with dust. So that's all it took, I said quietly. The clouds began to part slowly above me. For the first time, light broke through the haze. It was dim, red, but still light. The planet, though dead, was finally quiet. I looked up toward the stars again. The infection had spread beyond this planet once it had touched other worlds. But now, that thread was broken. This universe was hollow. Empty. There was no reason to stay. I raised my hand again, forming another rift in space. The light bent and twisted until the path back home opened. I looked at the dying sky one more time before stepping through. The air of my universe felt clean again. The stars shone brighter. Earth was exactly where I left it, still alive and noisy. I could feel Tony's faint energy signature in Stark Tower, moving around with his usual restless pace. I descended, landing on the balcony again. Tony looked up from his work. You were gone for a while. Where'd you go? Somewhere unpleasant, I said. He frowned. How unpleasant? Everything was dead, I said. And hungry. He blinked. You mean, like zombies? Yes, I said. You have a version of your world that eats itself. He set his tool down slowly. You're joking. I don't joke, I said. He ran a hand over his face. Great. So now we know there's a zombie universe. Fantastic. It's gone now, I said. He looked at me. You destroyed it. It destroyed itself, I said. I finished the job. He sighed. You have a weird definition of sightseeing. It was educational, I said. He smirked faintly. Next time, maybe take a vacation somewhere that doesn't involve corpses. I'll think about it, I said. He leaned against the counter. So, what's next for you? Gonna stick around? For now, I said. Your food is still the best I've had. He laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. I looked out the window again. The night was clear, the stars undisturbed. Keep your world alive, Stark. You wouldn't like the alternative. He raised an eyebrow. You actually sound like you care. I don't, I said. I'm just tired of cleaning up other people's mistakes. He chuckled softly. That's the closest thing to affection I've heard from you yet. Don't get used to it, I said. He smiled faintly. Wouldn't dream of it. The air in the tower was quiet again. The hum of the machines filled the silence. I sat down and reached for the next plate of food. The smell of freshly cooked meat rose, rich and warm. Much better, I said. Chapter 15, The Dark Dimension. The tower was quiet after my return from the dead universe. Tony had gone to his workshop again, muttering about multiversal threats and backup suits. The humans on the streets below laughed, drove, and lived without any idea that another version of their world had already eaten itself. I sat on the edge of the balcony rail, arms folded, tail moving slowly behind me. The night sky above New York was clear. Stars glimmered faintly through the city lights. But beyond those stars, past this universe's simple structure, something else pulsed. A presence. It was old, layered over itself countless times, like something that had existed outside of time and refused to end. It wasn't mortal. It wasn't like Odin. It wasn't like Thanos. It wasn't alive in the way this universe defined life. It was a plane of existence made into a being. Dormammu. I had sensed him faintly when I erased the infected strange in the zombie world. There was a matching signature, beneath, far away, like the remains of a spell trying to reconnect with its master. This realm's sorcerer supreme wasn't interfering right now. That meant the door to the dark dimension was unguarded, or at least not watched closely. Good. I stood. I'm going out. Tony's voice came from inside, tired but alert. Please tell me you're not going to start another interdimensional incident. I'm going to challenge Dormammu, I said. He walked into view, goggles on his head, wiping his hands. Is that a person or a planet? Both, I said. He rules a dimension of his own. He thinks himself a god. Tony stared for a moment. And you want to go punch him in the face? Yes, I said. He pinched the bridge of his nose. You know what? Sure. Go. Just don't drag him back here. If he comes here, it's because he survived, I said. Which he won't. Tony pointed a finger at me. If the skyline turns purple and starts melting, I'm blaming you. I turned away. Blame yourself. You built the tower. I rose into the sky, leaving the tower behind. The air chilled as I ascended. I didn't go to space. I didn't need to. Dormammu's realm was not in the physical vacuum beyond the atmosphere. It was layered over reality itself, accessible through magic, rifts, or raw power. I chose raw power. Floating above the Atlantic, I raised my hand. My fingers curled slightly. I reached forward, not through space, but through reality. The air before me rippled like water. Purple and black light began to swirl, forming a circular rift. A soundless pressure built behind it. The smell of energy, unlike ki, unlike Asgardian runes, unlike alien technology, poured through. I stepped through. The universe fell away. The dark dimension was endless, but not beautiful. It was a sea of shifting, solid energy, black and violet, glowing and pulsing, folding over itself. There was no ground, but I stood. There was no sky, but I looked up. Floating islands of energy drifted nearby, held in place by nothing. The whole place felt like a spell frozen in the middle of casting. And it was loud. Not in sound, but in pressure. The dimension wanted to consume. Everything in it pressed forward, hungry. A deep voice rumbled through the realm. You are not of this place. I'm not, I said. I came to see if you were worth fighting. The energy in front of me twisted, forming a massive face made of light and darkness. Flames of violet power burned around it, not fire, but raw dimensional force. Eyes, wide and cold, stared down at me. Dormammu. You are the one who erased my servant's echo, he said. You are the one who silenced my link to the infected world. He was noisy, I said. Your magic was annoying. You interfere with my expansion, Dormammu said. You interfere with my dominion. I interfere when I'm irritated, I said. There was a pause, then a rumbling sound that might have been amusement. You speak without fear. I don't need fear, I said. I have power. His eyes narrowed. You are not of the mystic arts. You are not of Asgard. You are not a celestial. What are you? I lifted my chin slightly. I am Beerus, god of destruction. The dimension seemed to still for a moment. God of destruction. Yes, I said. Which means this, you will not touch the universe I'm in. You will not bring your realm into it. You will not infect it, merge it, or consume it. You will remain here. Dormammu's eyes burned brighter. You order me? Yes, I said. Energy surged around me. Waves of dark power rose like storms and crashed toward me from every direction. They weren't physical. They attacked existence itself, trying to unmake me. I didn't move. The waves hit, passed, and broke like wind on a mountain. My aura glowed faintly, but I didn't let it flare. I didn't need to. Dormammu paused. Interesting. You speak like you're used to mortals, I said. I'm not a mortal. I have consumed universes, Dormammu said. His tone was deeper now, his presence pressing harder. I have devoured time. I have faced sorcerers who rewound my victories. I have eaten worlds whole. And I've erased things stronger than you, I said calmly. The dimension shuddered. You dare. I always dare, I said. His face shifted. He grew larger, towering over me, his features expanding across the entire plane. His voice boomed from every direction at once. Then let us see what your destruction amounts to. He unleashed another wave. This one wasn't like the first. This one folded space, time, and dimensional barriers together, trying to trap me in an endless loop of energy. It was the same trick he used on Strange, only bigger. I stepped through it. The loop shattered like weak glass. Dormammu's eyes narrowed. You are not bound by time. I am above it, I said. He roared, and this time the entire dimension roared with him. Spires of dark energy shot from the void, stabbing toward me like spears. The space around me tightened, trying to crush my body, my soul, my existence. I raised one hand, palm upward. Hawkeye. The spears vanished. The pressure vanished. The distortion vanished. That section of the dark dimension simply didn't exist anymore. Dormammu looked at the hole in his own realm. For the first time, his voice held something close to annoyance. You destroy dimensions. I destroy what annoys me, I said. He stared at me, his massive face still, then began to reform his missing space. New energy flowed in, replacing the erased portion. His realm was self-sustaining. It fed on itself. You are powerful, he said. But power alone does not rule dimensions. It does in mine, I said. He pulsed. A smaller, more humanoid version of himself stepped forward from the mass, still large, still glowing, but compact enough to interact. This one lifted a hand and created a ring of dimension energy around me. Inside it, the laws were different. Time slowed. Gravity twisted sideways. Space repeated and overlapped. Mortals would have been torn apart by it. Even sorcerers would have struggled. I stepped out of it with ease. Dormammu's brow tightened. You shift through rule sets. I don't follow rules, I said. I make them. He surged forward in irritation. You challenge me in my own realm. Yes, I said. And I win. He threw a fist larger than a mountain. I met it with a palm. The impact sent ripples across the void, distorting islands of energy that drifted too close. His power was vast, but it lacked precision. It was constant, not sharp. Too crude, I said. He pulled back, then split himself into several heads, each roaring, each launching beams of pure dimension energy. I vanished and appeared behind him, pressing 2 fingers against the core of his form. I said, "Don't touch my universe." I released power. The explosion wasn't loud, because there was no air. But the dimension shook. A section of Dormammu's form blew apart, dissolving into formless energy. He roared again, reforming, but slower this time. "You cannot erase me," he said. "I am the dark dimension. As long as it exists, I do. I can erase dimensions," I said calmly. Silence followed. Even the pulsing walls of his realm seemed to hesitate. Dormammu's eyes narrowed. "You would unmake an entire plane of existence." "If it irritates me," I said. He was quiet for a long time. The glow of his form fluctuated. "Why?" "Because I'm Beerus," I said. "And because this is my warning. Stay in your realm. Do not send your magic to Earth. Do not chase sorcerers. Do not answer stray calls from reckless humans. If I sense you leaking into my reality again, I will end this place." His energy flared. "You threaten me in my own domain." "It's not a threat," I said. "It's a statement." He was silent again. This time, the silence stretched long. I could feel him measuring me. Not in arrogance, not in taunting, but in actual assessment. Dormammu was not stupid. He was greedy, devouring, endless but not stupid. He knew what it meant that I could erase parts of him. He knew that if I continued, he would eventually fade. When he spoke again, his tone was different. "Your universe holds much power. It holds stones that shape reality. It holds realms that bleed into others. It draws attention. I merely answer the invitations of foolish mortals." "Then stop answering," I said. He stared. "And if your mortals call me again?" "Then I'll erase the caller," I said. He looked at me for a long moment, then finally spoke, low and even. "Very well. I will not touch your realm while you watch it." "That's all I need," I said. He shifted, his massive form pulling back slightly. "You are not like the others that came. You do not plead. You do not bargain." "I don't need to," I said. He studied me again. "What do you seek, Beerus?" "I seek entertainment," I said. "And food. And sometimes, something strong enough to keep my fists from getting bored." He gave a low, strange sound. "You will not find it here." "I already didn't," I said. He pulsed once, as if irritated, then turned his attention away from me. The dimension resumed its slow movement. "You may leave," he said. "But know this: if you ever fall, if your realm ever weakens, if your gods ever sleep, I will return." I raised my hand. "Then don't wait for me to fall." He didn't answer. I tore open another portal with a simple twist of my wrist. The dark dimension faded. The clean air of Earth rushed in again. I stepped through and found myself above the Atlantic, the night breeze cool against my face. I returned to Stark Tower in moments. Tony was on the couch now, a bowl of something in his hand, watching some old movie. He looked up as I entered. "So? He won't come," I said. Tony blinked. "Seriously?" "Yes," I said. He leaned back with a low whistle. "You stared down a dimension and told it to sit. And it did." "I told it to stay in its lane," I said. He grinned. "I like when you terrify cosmic entities. It makes my job easier." It should, I said. You humans keep calling things you can't beat. He groaned, rubbing his forehead. You're not wrong. Magic people always open doors and expect the rest of us to deal with the fallout. Then close their doors, I said. He nodded. I'll tell Strange next time I see him. I sat, taking the food from his bowl without asking. I ate slowly. This is better than what they had in the dead universe. He stared. That's my dinner. It was, I said. He sighed. You're lucky I like you. I know, I said. The tower lights dimmed. Outside, the city kept moving. I felt the multiverse around us settle slightly. The dark dimension's probing touch faded completely. For now, that problem was over. I finished the food and stood again. I'll rest. Tony nodded. Yeah. Do that. The universe is safer when you're napping. I ignored the comment and walked toward my floor. The soft hum of the tower followed me. The bed was smooth and quiet, the air cool. I lay down, hands behind my head, thoughts calm. Dormammu was strong. But not strong enough. This universe was still mine to watch. Chapter 16, The One Who Watches. The tower slept. The city didn't. I lay on the bed Tony provided, eyes open, listening to the hum of the power systems and the slow, human breathing of everyone inside the building. The night was ordinary. That was what made the difference stand out. There was something else. A gaze. Not from this planet. Not from this dimension. Not from any single point in space. It was wide, carefully placed, patient. It didn't press, didn't attack, didn't probe. It only watched. It stayed just far enough away to avoid being noticed by mortals. Mortals wouldn't have felt it. Even Odin might have ignored it. But I felt it. I sat up slowly. My tail flicked once, lightly tapping the bed. I turned my head toward the ceiling, though I knew the gaze wasn't up, it was above. Beyond. You've been watching for a while, I said quietly. Come closer. No answer. The gaze stayed, unbothered. I stood. The floor was cool beneath my feet. I stepped out onto the balcony, the doors sliding open without sound. The wind was cold, whispering across the glass. I floated upward, past the top of the tower, past the clouds, past the outer layer of the atmosphere until the planet was a curve of blue behind me. Space was silent. But the gaze was still there. I narrowed my eyes. I said, come closer. Still nothing. I lifted my hand and gripped the air itself. Space rippled. I pulled. Not delicately, firmly. The fabric of this universe trembled, like a curtain being dragged back. The brightness appeared first. Then the shape. A tall, bald figure materialized before me, not through teleportation but through revelation. He had been there all along, only concealed. His form was massive compared to human scale, but still smaller than I was prepared to erase if I needed to. He wore the blue and white garments he was known for. His eyes were huge, reflective, calm. The Watcher. Uedu. He stared at me, expression unchanging. You perceive more than the beings of your universe should. I folded my arms. I am not of this universe. He inclined his head slightly. Yes. You are foreign to this reality. Your power does not match the matrix of this world. That is why I watched. You watched because you're nosy, I said. He smiled faintly, a brief flicker. I observe. It is my purpose. You observed me, I said. Without permission. He considered that. I have watched multitudes who did not give permission. You watched my fight with Odin. Yes. You watched when I erased the Chitauri. Yes. You watched when I went to the dead universe. Yes. I stared at him evenly. Then why didn't you stop it? His expression didn't change. I cannot interfere. You can, I said. You don't. He shook his head slightly. Interference creates ripples. My order is to witness, to record, to preserve what is by observation only. I floated a little closer, eyes narrowing. Then why watch me specifically? Because you do not belong. Because you alter events just by existing here. Because you introduce destruction without cosmic arbitration. Because you frighten beings that should not know fear. They should, I said. His gaze moved to earth below us. You frightened Dormammu. He needed it, I said. You frightened Thanos, the Watcher said calmly. He needed it, I repeated. You fought Hela, he continued. You challenged Odin. You erased Surtur's manifestation. You silenced the Tesseract portal before it widened. You have shortened many stories of this universe. I looked down at Earth. Stories are boring when they take too long. His eyes met mine again. The events you interrupted were supposed to happen. I tilted my head slightly. Supposed to according to who? According to the flow of this reality, he said. According to the design of its creators. According to the path I have watched for eons. I stared for a moment, then spoke simply. I don't care. He blinked once, as if that answer was expected. I was certain you'd say that. I looked at him carefully. You're powerful. Not like you, he said. I watch. You act. You could act, I said. You choose not to. It is not a choice, he said quietly. It is an oath. I raised my hand. Purple energy crackled at my fingertips. I don't care about your oath either. His expression remained calm. Will you erase me? I thought about it. I let the thought sit for several seconds. I could. Of all beings in this universe, he was one of the few who existed above normal time, above normal space, above single universe rules. Erasing him would not be hard, but it would send a message. A message to whom? To other watchers. To the living tribunal. To anyone else who thought observing was a game. He watched me patiently. He wasn't afraid. He was ready to fight if I decided it. That alone made me pause. I lowered my hand slowly. I won't. Not yet. His shoulders relaxed, but only a fraction. May I ask why? Because you don't interfere, I said. Because you didn't try to move me, control me, or challenge me. You only watched. I can tolerate that. His eyes glowed faintly. Then I will continue. I frowned. With conditions. He tilted his head. You would place conditions on a watcher. Yes, I said. You will not reveal me to others. You will not speak of me to rival pantheons. You will not report me to cosmic arbiters. You will not tell your kind how to remove me. You will keep watching, quietly. He considered that. You fear judgment. I fear nothing, I said. I dislike being bothered. That made him smile faintly again. That is, very you. I didn't return the smile. Do you agree? He looked down at Earth once more. You have already accelerated this universe's strength. The heroes of this planet train because they fear you will test them again. Asgard sharpens its warriors because you forced its king to stand. Thanos is moving earlier than he would have. Even Dormammu is cautious. Your presence has made this universe sharper. I did it because I was bored, I said. His gaze was honest when he answered. And it helped. I stared at him. That's not an answer. He bowed his head slightly. Then yes. I agree to your terms. I will not reveal you. I watched him closely. If you lie, I will know. I know, he said. You found me. You would find me again. I drifted a little closer. You said you watched many universes. That includes the one I went to, the one with the infected heroes. Yes, he said quietly. That universe was tragic. It was pathetic, I said. Pathetic, yes, he agreed. But it was still worthy of being seen. It wasn't worthy of continuing, I said. He didn't argue. You were merciful to it. I was annoyed, I said. You hide mercy in irritation, he said calmly. I said I don't care about your oath, I said. He let the subject drop. You are interested in this universe. You stay, even though you could leave. Why? I looked down at Earth again. Cars moved. Lights blinked. People went about their routines, unaware a god floated above them. Because it's fun, I said. He nodded once. Then I will continue to watch. I turned my head slowly back to him. I'll let you do more than watch. His eyes widened slightly. Explain. You see everything, I said. You know when threats rise. You know when portals open. When something comes that wastes my time, you will show me. You will not wait for the mortals to call. You will tell me. Immediately. You would have a watcher, report to you, he asked. Yes, I said. He hesitated. I am forbidden to interfere. This is not interference, I said. You will not intervene. You will not act. You will inform. That is still watching. He actually thought about it. I saw it in the way his eyes moved slightly, as if he was weighing cosmic rules in his mind. Finally, he nodded. I can do that. Quietly. Good, I said. He studied me again. There is something else. I narrowed my eyes. Speak. You are being noticed, he said. Not only by me. Not only by those in this reality. Your power, when you erase even in other universes, leaves scars. Large ones. There are entities who sense destruction at that scale. You walk a thin edge. I know, I said. Let them notice. You would fight them as well, he asked. If they annoy me, I said. He smiled faintly. You are very consistent. That's why I'm alive, I said. He looked down again. What will you do now? I shrugged lightly. Eat. Sleep. Maybe train their heroes if I feel like it. Maybe destroy something. I'll decide later. He nodded slowly. Then I will